It all kicks off at a massive event called The Strongest Gamer, where the announcer hypes up the unbelievable scene, featuring millions of players and a ton of crazy plot twists. Watching on giant screens, the fans go absolutely wild as the caster points out that only one winner survived, completely crushing the odds and the competition. Right then, the main stage of the League of Streaming lights up, and the announcer praises the champ for not backing down and taking challenges head-on. Carving her name as an absolute legend in the real world, the player dominates the top of the leaderboard, leaving the crowd marked by this historic moment. Celebrating her total sweep, Shen Heian lifts the golden trophy, cementing her status as the tournament's very first champion. Blowing everyone's minds, she shows off a terrifying reaction speed and an intuition that goes way beyond normal precision. Dubbed a legend, the girl completely transcended the concept of a regular gamer by pulling off physical feats that nobody else can even mimic. Now, with this milestone wrapping up her journey at the event, the champ eagerly waits for her big professional debut. Leaving behind an insane legacy, the burning question remains who will have what it takes to claim all this glory in the next season. 6 long years pass since that legendary event, and the scene shifts to a massive, luxurious building right in the middle of the city. Inside, in a super high-tech lab packed with virtual reality gear, the staff is moving around at a pretty chill pace. Stepping out of one of the machines looking totally relaxed, Seojin shows he's super focused on the test he just wrapped up. Keeping a close eye on the guy, Director Ji immediately asks how it felt to use the tech. She casually mentions how cool it must be to finally enjoy a game again after being away for so long. Relieved with the results, Seojin confirms he definitely feels way less dizzy compared to his old gaming days. His body feels much lighter now too, and Ji totally agrees with his take on how comfortable the system is. With that, the director calls the kid over, gesturing that she needs to show him something important. Breaking down the details in a document, she reveals they used a brand new tech to push the limits and deliver max performance. Thanks to this genius breakthrough, even folks with serious physical limits can play without a single hitch. In fact, she guarantees that someone with a low sync rate like his won't have any issues as long as he sticks to the time limit. Super curious about this mind-blowing update, our MC cuts to the chase and asks how much this crazy machine actually costs. Without sugarcoating it, the woman drops that this little toy goes for a cool 1 billion won, keeping her tone strictly business. Blown by that surreal fortune, the guy repeats the number, totally unable to process what he just heard. Amused by his mini freak out, Ji admits the price tag is heavy, especially knowing he's completely flat broke right now. But she already had a master plan and pitches a special deal to the kid, asking if he's ready to negotiate. This capsule is basically a device aimed at mixing VR with the industrial sector to keep the modern crowd happy. But amidst all those boring corporate uses, there's one specific feature that got the whole world completely obsessed and hyped out of their minds. In a scene packed with pure adrenaline, a warrior drops from the sky, slamming a flaming sword into the ground and causing a massive shockwave. Riding the momentum of that ridiculous hit, the attack lands squarely on a giant monster that doesn't stand a chance. Right in the middle of this stylish chaos, the MC shows off his combat gear, making it crystal clear that humanity's true obsession is gaming. The system flags a boss encounter, and the graphics are so terrifyingly realistic, it's hard to believe it's just a virtual world. As the match kicks off, the fight gets frantic, loaded with fire effects and non-stop action. Busting out extremely flashy skills, Seojin admits he fell in love with this fantasy universe right from the start. The whole world got swallowed up by this wild trend, with everyone jumping into the capsules without a second thought. But the honeymoon phase didn't last long. It hadn't even been 1 year before he passed out in the machine due to a severe system glitch. It all went down because his sync rate, which needed to be flawless to move in there, was bizarrely below average. Snapping back to harsh reality, Seojin is sitting on a bus, checking his phone with a pretty exhausted look on his face. Watching a video of a total noob, getting wrecked in the League of Streaming, he thinks about how hyped he was to try out the new gear. But the financial stress hits hard. He has rent to pay and zero chance of coughing up that kind of cash. Frustrated by his own craving to play, he figures if he'd never dipped his toes in this world, he wouldn't be stressing so much right now. Staring off into space, our MC wonders about the real reasons he even got hooked on this tech in the first place. Just then, the bus drives past a massive billboard hyping up a super special guest for a show match. Later in the dead of night, the view shifts to the quiet, humble apartment building where the kid lives. In his room, Kim Tae-woo, his veteran streamer roommate, is watching the South Korean Legends broadcast with stars in his eyes. Munching on snacks, his buddy points out how ridiculous the scale of the event is, managing to book active pro players just for an exhibition. Coming home exhausted, Seojin notices the racket and asks what his roommate is blasting at such a high volume. Glued to the screen, Tiwoo answers excitedly that the tournament's exhibition match is just off the charts. Curious about all the hype, the MC asks if this championship is really that big of a deal, considering he's been seeing ads everywhere. Triggered by the absolute cluelessness, his friend loses his cool and asks if he's lost his marbles for asking something so dense. He proudly breaks it down. The league of streaming is straight up the peak of the competitive scene worldwide. Just to give him an idea, regular tournaments pull in 3 million viewers in Korea alone, and with the global audience, that spikes to 15 million. On top of the massive crowd it draws, it's easily considered the biggest amateur event, hosted by the main organization itself. Trying to wrap his head around the combat meta, Seojin asks what kind of weapons folks usually run in these tourneys. The veteran patiently explains that most people main bow and magic to keep a solid advantage fighting from a distance. He confidently declares that the good old sword is still the undisputed top tier choice in this game. Processing that golden tip, the kid gets pretty thoughtful, muttering to himself about maybe running a blade. Trying to be real with him, Tiwoo warns that picking a sword doesn't equal a free win, admitting he tried to play the Swordmaster last year and got completely humbled. Ignoring his buddy's gaming trauma, Seojin quickly realizes that anyone who streams can just sign up for the tournament. Feeling super offended by how easy he made it sound, the veteran grumbles that getting into this league as a nobody streamer is practically impossible. Finding this whole chat super weird, Tiwoo asks why the sudden interest, since his buddy never cared about this stuff before. Totally cutting the tension, a phone on the table starts vibrating like crazy, stealing their attention. Grabbing the device instantly, Seojin carefully reads the new text message he just got. The message from the director states that a brand new top of the line capsule has just been added as the grand prize for the tournament winner. This luxury rig will be handed out right at the league event happening in the famous travel area this time around. Flashing back to the secret deal from earlier, the woman had promised to loan him the machine for free until the event ended if he agreed to compete. With this golden ticket dropping right into his lap, the MC gets a look of unshakable confidence in his eyes. The director's tempting question echoes in his head, leaving the massive, risky choice entirely up to him. Turning back to his roommate, Seojin drops it super casually that maybe he should try entering this tournament too. Choking hard on his food, Tiwoo freezes in place and begs his buddy to repeat the absolute madness he just spewed. Keeping it ridiculously cool, the kid doubles down, saying he's diving headfirst into the league to compete for real. Getting into the competitive spirit, he acts super cocky and even has the nerve to ask if he wouldn't totally crush it out there. Completely stunned by all that swagger, his friend just stares, 99% sure his roommate has lost his mind. Trying to bring the crazy rookie back to harsh reality, he warns him that the championship isn't a joke and random nobodies get blocked at the door. But Seojin's mind is already miles away, finally getting the real reason why he craved to jump back into gaming after so many years. The deep desire burning in his soul is to intensely relive all that absolute glory he had back when he was feared as the sword god. Flashing back, the MC relives memories of a distant era, surrounded by falling leaves. His sharp glare reflects the intensity of someone who has been through some serious brawls. Surrounded by a bunch of enemies in the mist, he holds his ground in a battle stance. With a flash of movement, the warrior draws his blade, ready to clear the room. Seeing an opening, he unleashes a brutal strike that slices through his foes without breaking a sweat. The area is left in total ruins as he stands tall and victorious amidst the aftermath. He carries these heavy memories simply because he has flawless recall of his past life. It all comes rushing back, remembering the shady underground market operating under the moonlight. Deep down in that filthy underworld, people were treated like nothing more than inventory waiting to be used. That grim reality was his past life, where the kid was just a chained-up captive. Suddenly, a massive brawl breaks out, spreading pure chaos all over the place. Stepping out of the wreckage, an imposing swordmaster approaches the little prisoner. Offering a fresh start, the mysterious guy gently asks if the kid wants to tag along. Reaching out his hand, he was the literal lifeline for a kid who had zero hope left. Without skipping a beat, the little guy takes the help, sealing the fate that would change his whole existence. Walking toward a new beginning, the master guided the kid far away from all that misery. Once settled in his new home, he had to deal with the crushing weight of expectations and everybody's jealousy. But if it weren't for that clutch rescue, the supreme warrior known as the Sword God would never have existed. Thinking about his old mentor brings a wave of nostalgia, making the guy appreciate his grind even more. Ruining the sentimental vibe, Tiwoo calls his buddy a lunatic after hearing his sudden decision. Refusing to believe his ears, he questions the wild idea the MC just threw out there again. Thinking his roommate is overreacting, Seojin points at the machine and argues that putting it to use makes total sense. Annoyed, the veteran asks if the noob has any clue about the super strict rules for getting into the league. Quickly explains that the door only opens for folks who already have massive clout and a hardcore fanbase online. Plus, he sarcastically adds that building that kind of hype out of nowhere is basically impossible. To make it work, a guy needs the gift of gab and has to know how to keep chat entertained during a live stream. You also have to be an absolute monster at the game to hold the attention of a picky audience. Another major key is having sharp humor, so chat doesn't fall asleep watching your gameplay. As if that wasn't enough, you still have to pull all-nighters, grinding through video edits. And even if you do all of that flawlessly, you're still doomed to fail if nobody clicks on your stream. Wrapping up his rant, he asks how someone who hasn't touched a modern VR rig plans to make it big. Taking the whole lecture in, the kid stays quiet for a sec, sizing up the situation. Keeping his cool, he asks if it's possible to climb the platform purely by being cracked at the game. Tired of the stubbornness, his roommate sighs heavily and admits the noob just doesn't quit. Then he drops the bomb that the only way to silence the haters would be to take down the biggest legend on the server. Too confident, Seojin claims straight up that he's way better than the champ, and already took the machine for a spin today. Thinking this is the peak of delusion, the veteran totally loses it over his buddy's unchecked ego. Without wasting a second, he shoves the MC toward the capsule, wanting to hit him with a reality check right then and there. Daring the kid, he bets he'll do all the house chores if the noob actually proves he's got skills. Seeing a free win, a cocky smirk pops up on the face of the guy who knows exactly what he's about to do. Accepting the challenge on the spot, he shakes on it like it's the most casual thing in the world. With the bet locked in, the massive metal lid of the VR rig starts sliding shut. Booting up the system, the dashboard signals a direct link while his creator profile loads onto the network. Once in the virtual lobby, the guy figures he never really cared about the famous player sitting at rank 1. But with this bet on the line, things just got personal, and now his pride is front and center. For flashing back to old lessons, his master's imposing figure crosses the MC's mind again. The wise old man used to say everyone takes a lot of L's before becoming a pro at anything. He also warned that second-guessing yourself just leaves you stuck in the mud with 0 wins for the rest of your life. Taking those words to heart, the kid's gaze locks in, hyper-focused on the challenge ahead. Waking up in the VR space, he looks around the generic scenery and wonders what map he just spawned into. Right then, the system pings that the veteran just logged into the private training ground. Spawning into the arena, his roommate pops up looking super chill, ready to judge the noob. Curious, the MC asks about the spot and finds out it's just the default arena that comes pre-installed on the rig. The place is literally built for folks to practice against AI bots and try to break high scores. Tossing a wooden sword to his buddy, Taewoo says he won't fight him directly to avoid a total sweep. Glued to the blue interface, Seojin quickly skims the tech specs on the training menu. The system shows the difficulty scales from level 1 to 10, with the last one being a literal clone of the legendary player. Bragging a bit, his friend mentions the champ has held the undefeated crown in this mode for 5 long years. Then he drops a warning that just reaching the final boss means beating level 9, which is an absolute nightmare for noobs. Suddenly, the veteran notices something sketchy on the settings panel, and his eyes go wide in confusion. Ignoring all the warning signs, the kid just locks in his choice without a second thought. The AI takes shape in the middle of the room, ticking down the last few seconds before the brawl begins. Gripping his weapon tight, the rookie hears his roommate panicking, yelling to ask what level he just picked. With no time to answer, the bot dashes at its target with terrifying speed. With flawless reflexes, our MC blocks the brutal strike, sending sparks flying from the impact. That perfect block, the veteran's jaw hits the floor as he mutters a curse in pure disbelief. Surrounded by intense energy, the Swordmaster flashes a cocky smirk, showing he's completely in control. Punishing the enemy's opening, he claps back with a direct and ridiculously heavy hit. Chaining into the next aggro move, the warrior spins his body, winding up for a lightning, fast follow-up. Landing a clean hit, the wooden blade slices the air and bashes the dummy with devastating force. Unable to guard, the bot staggers hard as its health bar tanks from the critical damage. Completely paralyzed by this unreal gameplay, his buddy mentally wonders if the game is glitching out. Finding its footing, the machine doesn't quit and dives back in for another round of frantic combos. Clashing weapons again, Seojin holds down the center of the arena, completely shattering the enemy's guard. Wrapping things up, he unleashes a blazing fast flurry of blue slashes that delete any chance of a comeback. Keeping the combo alive, the MC dashes forward with a burst of speed. Riding the momentum, he drops a massive blue slash that sweeps the entire zone. The hit is so brutal that the bot's arm starts bugging out and totally shatters on the spot. Watching this absolute madness, Taewoo goes into shock and lets out a panicked yell. Even taking critical damage, the machine tries to stay on its feet no matter what. Seojin lands smoothly on the wooden floor, keeping his stance rock solid. Zero juice left to keep fighting, the AI completely stalls out and starts smoking. Looking cool as ice, the kid just casually checks out the aftermath of his attack. A total system failure trashes the opponent in a bright red flash. Humiliated and wrecked, the machine faceplants into the floor with zero chance of respawning. Making it official, the dashboard pops up saying he cleared the 9th training stage. Struggling to believe his own eyes, the veteran asks if that dummy was seriously level 9. Then it clicks, and he realizes with pure dread what his buddy's next challenge is going to be. The system loads the data in a flash, rendering a brand new combat arena. Emerging from the light, a way more intimidating bot takes shape in the room. The veteran instantly recognizes Shin Haeun's iconic look and freezes up. Totally stressed out by the vibe, he can barely remember how to breathe. Staring down the new opponent, Seojin tries to figure out who this weird-looking character is. Miles away in the lab, a staff member flags down Director Ji-hai. She asks what the point was in making that kind of shady deal with the kid. The assistant argues that handing over such an expensive rig for free was a massive stretch. Ji-hai explains she fully expected him to bomb out of the tournament and just wanted the rig back quickly. But then she admits she hates seeing raw talent go to waste, leaving her coworker totally lost. Pulling up his gamer profile, the director recalls how cracked he used to be back in the day. Now she's betting big that the guy's skills have leveled up to an insane degree. Worried, her colleague points out that just qualifying for the league is basically an impossible grind. Trusting her gut, Ji swears that if he actually tries his best, the odds of him taking the grand prize and winning the whole championship are totally real. Back in the arena, the MC trades aggressive blows with the bot. Watching the sweaty match, his roommate wonders if the noob even stands a chance. A prompt pops up asking if he wants to record, and the veteran sees a Goldman. He figures if his buddy actually beats the champ, that footage is going to be top-tier content. In the heat of the brawl, a heavy strike pushes the MC backward. Refusing to back off, he parries an overhead swing, using every ounce of his weapon's durability. The impact makes the kid slide across the floor, tearing up the training arena's scenery. Sizing up the enemy's DPS, he admits the legend definitely lives up to the hype. The girl's image flashes in his mind, confirming the pressure feels just like the old days. He admits her raw talent is leagues above anyone he ever met in his past life. Putting his own ego aside, he makes sure to count himself as the one and only exception. Noticing his buddy zoning out, Taewoo screams for him to focus on the fight. The open guard, the AI lands a devastating kick on him. The veteran shakes his head, bummed out but confirming that exactly what he expected just happened. Muttering that beating the champ is impossible, he watches the noob eat another hit. Taking a clean shot to the gut, the pain makes Seojin drop his wooden sword. Back on his feet, the kid notices he doesn't feel any pain, and there's not a drop of blood. Loving the vibe, the MC heaps praise on how insanely good the tech is. Freaked out by his roommate's chill reaction, Taewoo notices something sketchy and loses his words. He realizes the noob took the hit on purpose just to test the physics, and thinks that is absolutely unhinged. Ending the playtime, the machine rushes in, winding up for another lethal combo. The arena backdrop highlights the ridiculous speed the bot uses to close the gap. Unleashing a ruthless attack, the enemy locks straight onto the target without holding back. A massive clash of blue energy detonates in the room the second they collide. The dummy's programmed coldness totally clashes with how wildly aggressive its moves are. Keeping his mental game strong, Seojin doesn't flinch one bit in the face of danger. The middle of the room turns into a spark show as the two weapons smash together hard. Locked into the trade, the kid grips his blade to keep from getting staggered. Giving zero breathing room, the AI deflects his guard and tries to poke a hole in his defense. With laser focus, the swordmaster reads every micro movement the opponent makes. Ripping a quick spin, the bot throws a wide arc that could slice anyone in half. Crazy agility, our MC backflips and dodges the energy wave by a pixel. Sliding across the wooden floor, the machine resets its stance after the missed swing. Taunting the stalled enemy, the kid asks if the fight is already over. Seeing the bot isn't reacting, he launches forward, cracking the floor with brute force. Flying straight at the target, he sarcastically announces he's taking the wheel now. With a massive leap, Seojin brings his sword down hard to crush the enemy's guard. The clash of the two weapons sends a shockwave that rattles the entire room. Unable to tank the colossal hit, the AI's blade starts to crack under the pressure. The impossible play out, Taewoo drops his jaw, unable to process the clip. The pressure is so insane that the bot's weapon completely shatters into a million pieces. Clearing the opponent out of his way, the momentum slams the machine hard against the wall. The MC strikes a confident pose, proving his skills haven't gathered a speck of dust. Sprawled on the floor and totally bested, the final boss of the tutorial takes the L. Pointing his weapon, the kid mocks the bot. saying it would need 80 years to beat him. Experiencing a critical system failure, the dummy collapses and dissolves into digital pixels. The victory screen pops up, lighting up the room and cementing the rookie's terrifying talent. Completely mind-blown by the impossible W, Tiwoo screams that his buddy just bodied the legend. Meanwhile, the MC stays super chill, wondering if this level of skill is enough to start streaming. Time flies and morning breaks peacefully over the modest apartment building where the two live. Paying up his end of the bet, the veteran becomes the housemaid and gets ordered to go cook the rice. Slurping noodles, Seojin complains about the cooking and immediately tells his roommate to vacuum the living room and do the laundry. Then, he demands the dishes be washed right away, leaving his buddy scrubbing the floor filled with pure rage. With the chores handed out, the bedroom door clicks shut, blocking out the sounds of the cleaning montage. Staring at the massive, pristine capsule, the kid remembers he already installed the game yesterday. As soon as the lid slides open, he decides to hop in and get everything set up for his grand debut. Lying comfortably in the seat, the noob closes his eyes, waiting for the OS to boot up. A bright flash lights up the visor, signaling the deep dive into virtual reality. Opening his eyes slowly, our MC wakes up already plugged into the system's hub. The area around him is a giant, endless white void that stretches forever. Looking around, he's pretty confused and tries to figure out what kind of lobby he just dropped into. Just then, a blue prompt pops up right in his face, grabbing his attention. Reading that this is the player hub, he gets that content creators score their own private space. Seeing the place totally barren, the guy figures he'll have to deck it out with furniture later. But right now, he has bigger fish to fry, so he boots up the link to the famous streaming platform. The system UI loads in, displaying minutes and the most hyped live streams going on. Checking the leaderboards, the rookie locks in his one and only goal farm enough clout to qualify for the league. Getting a ping that his stream is starting soon, he confirms his first game choice. He picked a title that's all about stealth and taking down targets in the dead of night. The adventure is set in an ancient era where the player has to use some wild methods to finish contracts. The launch was such a massive hit that it smashed the 1 million concurrent viewers milestone on day one. In fact, the hype train is still going strong even after being out for a full week. Checking out the game's clout, Seojin figures it's the ultimate pick for a noob looking to farm some views. Suddenly, the screen cuts to a night scene with a shadow sprinting across the rooftops. Sticking the landing, the mysterious figure shows off his dark gear and a nasty-looking dagger. Gripping the stone ledge tight, the character flexes some serious parkour agility. Perched high on the wall under the moonlight, the rogue scopes out the sleeping city below. A heavy tension fills the air while the hooded figure waits to make his next move. Finally taking the wheel of the virtual body, the kid takes a deep breath and gets ready to pop off. Showing off his fresh silver-haired avatar, he flashes a cocky grin and announces the start of his run. The system dashboard lights up, confirming his live stream is officially on air. Reading his own clickbait title about being a noob taking advice, he wonders if this meta actually pulls viewers. Remembering Tiwoo swearing by this strat makes him chuckle, especially since he's not exactly a beginner. A harsh of wind sweeps across the roof, making our MC's cape flap in the breeze. Enjoying the high ground view, he takes in a ridiculously detailed, glowing metropolis. Down below on the cobblestones, the NPCs are just walking around, totally clueless about the danger above. Blown away by the Ultra HD graphics, the rookie decides to just vibe and soak in the experience. A satisfied smirk spreads across his face as he fully immerses himself in the game's atmosphere. Killing the peaceful vibe, a mysterious female voice calls out his character's name. Popping up out of nowhere, a blonde woman named Christina warns him that this contract has a high chance of going south. Playing along, he claps back, asking when their line of work was ever safe. The guy realizes with a jump that his avatar is running the dialogue on autopilot because of the tutorial. Finding the whole thing awesome, he notices even his voice got pitch, shifted to match the rogue's edgy vibe. Staring down her guildmate, the woman keeps a dead, serious face about the incoming threat. The avatar keeps yapping on its own, dropping a cold line about how anyone who takes a life better be ready to lose theirs. Agreeing with the edgy philosophy, his partner tells him to stay sharp, warning that the enemies might already be watching. Telling her to chill and wait at the tavern, the rogue literally just eats himself off the high wall. During the quick goodbye, a dossier with the target's info gets shoved into his hands. Doubling down on the profession's dark motto, the character preaches that nothing is true and everything is permitted. The controls finally unlock and the kid smiles, realizing the real action is about to kick off. Gripping a sharp blade, Seojin looks hyped beyond belief for all the promised chaos. With a massive burst of speed, our MC sprints across the rooftops, tearing through the night like a flash. Riding that crazy momentum, he pulls off a flawless gap, jump between the buildings. He aims his landing perfectly, dropping straight onto a lit-up glass skylight. Shattering the glass with his body weight, he freefalls straight into the mansion. With a sharp, hyper-focused glare, the noob scans the room below, ready to start swinging. The system pings that autopilot is off, making the guy let out a surprised, "Ho!" Now fully at the wheel, the kid maps out his route and decides to push down the dark hallway ahead. But when he turns his head, he realizes his expected path is blocked by a solid wall. The hint UI suggests using a metal pipe, leaving him wondering if he has to brute force climb the thing. Following the prompt, the MC reaches out and grips the iron pipe tight. Instantly, some invisible force yanks him upward, pulling off a flawless mid-air acrobatic flip. Sticking the landing clean, he touches down on the upper floor, leaving a blue trail behind. Staring at his own hands in shock, the guy realizes his body moved on its own and praises the crazy immersion. Figuring out how the aim assist works, he realizes he just to keep his muscles loose during the auto animations. The main quest finally updates on the Heiju D, telling him to take out a high-ranking corrupt noble. Skimming the wall of text, Seojin boils it down to one simple goal: delete the target. Checking the glowing minimap, he loves how the game just spoon-feeds him the exact direction to go. Reaching the edge of a roof, the tutorial tells him to use a long zipline to get down. Sliding down the thick rope, the noob comments on how the game is teaching the controls in super easy mode. Just then, a purely mischievous look takes over his face as a risky idea pops into his head. Letting his curiosity take the wheel, he wonders what would happen if he just let go of the rope halfway down. Sojin asks out loud if he really has to slide all the way to the end. The tutorial says jumping is faster, while the screen literally shows him plummeting. Letting go of the rope mid-air, the kid intentionally goes into freefall. The impact is absolutely brutal, kicking up a massive dust cloud and smashing whatever was underneath him. Feeling the fall damage tick, our MC figures that strat is probably a throw. Meanwhile, back in the real world, he notices something popping off on his screen. The viewers are roasting him for the noob play, making the guy suddenly remember he's actually live streaming. Shocked, he sees he already has 4 viewers and has no clue how he pulled an audience that fast. Since he fully expected to stream to 0 viewers at first, the kid apologizes for taking so long to interact. Reading chat, the rookie thinks the usernames are super weird and wonders if they're Tiwoo's buddies. Flashing back to the veteran's advice, he processes what he needs to do to keep this tiny crowd hooked. Tiwoo warned him that early on the secret is just yapping to yourself to avoid dead air and never stressing over the view count. The absolute golden rule to growing a channel is keeping up a constant back and forth with the chat. People who hang out in small streams do it because they want to be noticed, since messages just fly by in the massive channels. Ready to follow the playbook, Seojin plans to strike up some chill banter with his 4 viewers. Confirming to chat that he is indeed a fresh install noob, he agrees to stop trolling and head straight for the main quest. The camera pans to Count Eder's massive mansion, lit up by a seriously creepy blood moon. Arriving at the drop zone fast, our MC reads chat commenting on the spooky vibes of the place. Not really sure what to do next, he asks if he should just waltz in, and chat tells him to read the note he got earlier. Remembering that key item, the kid pulls the paper out. The intel gives him the target's location and drops the bomb that there are about 20 guards locking down the area. Checking his own loadout, he partially slides out the hidden blade inside his cane. On top of that, his character is rocking a heavy reinforced gauntlet that's glowing on his arm. Looking at these basic starter weapons, the noob figures his only job here is to sweep the boss. Putting the paper away, he casually mentions that this is more than enough gear to get the job done. Panicking at the streamer's reckless vibe, chat starts screaming for him to drop the crazy act right now. Totally missing why they're freaking out, the MC just asks what all the doom posting in chat is about. Noticing the massive vibe shift, he thinks it's weird that people are saying taking the L is just part of the learning curve. Asking if he shouldn't just use the front door, the kid gets confused reading a gaming slang term he's never seen. The game is heavily built around stealth, so running in guns blazing gives the AI ridiculous buffs. This suicidal strat of trying to 1v9 everyone face-to-face is exactly what the community calls a full-send suicide rush. Hyped by the challenge, Seojin asks if it's literally impossible to clear the tutorial like that, and finds out nobody has ever pulled it off. Chat explains that veterans ground it for 10 hours in rage, quit saying it's only doable for absolute gaming gods. Hearing the champ's title mentioned again makes the guy take a step forward, processing the intel. Fueled by pure ego, the Swordmaster decides he's going to clear the mission exactly like that. The massive manor gates wait to be breached under the blood-red night sky. Walking straight into the danger zone, the rookie admits the place looks pretty intimidating up close. But his eyes stay razor-sharp and 100% locked on the final prize. Watching him march in, the viewers start betting on how many seconds he'll last before getting totally wiped out. One chatter even asks if the noob grasps the absolute god tier skill of the legend he's trying to copy. Staying completely chill, our MC figures everything will be fine as long as he doesn't overextend. Two heavily armored guards are holding down the front entrance. Spotting him walking up, one of the knights yells, demanding to know who goes there. Getting caught instantly, the kid plays it cool and tells chat he's already getting the hang of this. The viewers absolutely lose it laughing, assuming all that swagger is about to end in a super fast trip to the respawn screen. Without waiting for a reply, the guard charges in pissed off, swinging a heavy sword. Tracking the enemy's animation perfectly, the kid's eyes light up as he predicts the swing. Flawless reflexes, he intercepts the enemy blade, triggering a loud metallic clash. Capitalizing on the massive opening, the MC rips a lightning-fast counter, hitting the guard cleanly. The impact of the punish leaves the enemy stumbling backward, completely off balance and wide open. Watching the brawl, chat completely freaks out asking if that was a perfect parry, which makes the noob curious about the hype. Looking at the massive critical damage, Seojin admits he didn't really understand the mechanics of what he just did. Seeing the enemy's health bar melt, he wonders out loud if these guards are supposed to be this squishy. Right then, the second knight rushes in screaming, desperate to avenge his downed buddy. Busting out the exact same agility, the swordmaster blocks the new swing, creating a bright blue flash. Unable to cope with the skill level, the viewers start accusing the kid of being a smurf on a fresh account. They argue that hitting two perfect parries back-to-back is insane and chalk it up to pure RNG luck. While the enemy drops dead to the floor, our MC thinks about the specific word chat keeps spamming. Staring at the virtual body despawning, he calls out to his tiny audience. Tilting his head in confusion, the noob genuinely asks what the hecka parry even is. Chat completely loses its mind, confirming he just pulled off the hardest tech in the game without even knowing it existed. Super relaxed in his VR rig, the kid tells everyone to stop arguing in the comments and just explain the mechanic. Reading the detailed breakdown, he finally gets that blocking at the exact right frame stuns the enemy. Chat points out that even retired pros drop combo on this, making the guy surprised it's considered that hard. Flashing back to his hellish training from his past life, he compares the skill ceiling of these gamers to the warriors from his old world. The swordmaster understands that reading an opponent perfectly requires absolute body control. Telling chat he gets how the mechanic works now. He's flooded with new messages begging him to abort the mission. Ignoring the warnings that a total nightmare is waiting for him, the kid gets a dangerously stubborn look in his eye. Taking another heavy step toward the mansion, he questions why everyone is sweating so much. Flexing his weapon with pure arrogance, the noob refuses to back down while chat argues about whether he's actually good or just lucky. Reading one specific comment praising his cracked movement, the guy's face goes dead serious. The rest of chat starts flaming the guy who complimented him, totally downplaying the MC's skills. Watching the drama, he notices the only viewer who stood up for him instantly became the chat's punching bag. That triggers a dark memory from his past, where his wins were always trashed just because of where he came from. Knowing the vibes are different here, he still feels challenged and ready to prove this lobby totally wrong. Pushing the memories aside, the warrior steps up confidently to raid the fortress and shut everyone up for good. Seeing the bold push, a squad of armed guards yells at the intruder to stop right there. Our MC grips his weapon tight and figures the core of combat is always the same no matter the world. With that, he unsheathes his hidden blade, swearing that it doesn't matter what kind of boss is waiting for him. Taking the fight to them aggressively, the kid dashes in at high speed, saying he just needs to let his gameplay do the talking. With a sick leap, he goes right after an enemy trying to smash him with a heavy mace. The swordmaster's eyes glow with laser focus as he calculates the exact frame of impact. Ripping an epic slash, he shatters the enemy's guard with overwhelming force. The clash of weapons triggers a flurry of rapid-fire hits, leaving chat completely lost trying to track the play. Finding the perfect window, the noob lands a clean strike that lights up the whole screen. Unable to tank the raw power of the hit, the enemy gets sent flying backward violently. Keeping the crazy tempo up, Seojin slices through another guard with a fast, lethal combo. With the zone cleared, he casually poses near the staircase, surrounded by the bodies of the guys he just dropped. Flexing under the moonlight, the warrior taunts that they'd need at least a whole squad of monks if they actually want to catch him. The audience is freaking out, asking if he's a secret pro because of the back-to-back pack parries while the surviving NPCs scream for backup. Totally wrecked by the counterattack, one of the knights coughs up some pixel blood before finally despawning. Dropping his battle stance after the sweep, our MC lets out a chill sigh and holsters his weapon. Without wasting time, he takes a firm step forward to push his raid deeper into the manor. Casually checking his stats, the kid mentions he's already taken care of 6 enemies so far. Reading chat still doubting he's a beginner, the noob swears he is, bringing up his embarrassing fall damage fail on the roof. A toxic chatter mucks the small stream and baits a ban. making the Swordmaster question the weird behavior. He hits the guy with the ban hammer, and chat cracks up, praising his zero-tolerance policy and fast reflexes. Just then, Seojin remembers his past life, where he always laid low and held himself back because of his background. But his insane talent couldn't stay hidden forever, and he eventually became the legendary sword god. All that caution was basically a survival trait from getting bullied by the older veterans back when he was a kid. Snapping back to the game, the audience is begging to know the secret sauce behind those perfect parries. Trolling them a bit, our MC claims all you have to do is remember your past life. Then he adds that you just need to watch the enemy closely and swing vertically, leaving the chat completely speechless. The crowd starts booing and flaming his garbage tutorial, while the kid just laughs at the salty comments. Cutting the comedy short, a fresh wave of guards spots the intruder, and the noob finds it hilarious they all agrode at once. The dark hallway is instantly jam-packed with a massive mob of heavily armed soldiers zeroing in on him. Ignoring chat spamming that the run is dead, the guy flashes a grin and hypes up his viewers. He throws out a challenge, asking if chat wants to see a rookie hit 13 perfect parries in a row. Sweating bullets, the knights yell for everyone to stay calm since it's a one-on-one fight. Kicking off the wall, the warrior launches himself at the enemy mob with shocking speed. Sprinting straight into the meat grinder, he readies his blade, staying ridiculously calm despite the 1v13 disadvantage. The first guard eats a clean hit and screams as his guard gets instantly broken. Gliding across the battlefield, our MC dodges swings while slicing through the mob non-stop. The Swordmaster's sharp eyes track every micro-animation of the enemies crowding him. Pulling off a flawless dodge, he wows the audience, who are now putting money on him being a pro in disguise. Furious about getting swept, a heavy armor soldier charges in, trash-talking the intruder aggressively. Using the enemy's own weight against him, Seojin pivots on his heel, shifting his stance in a split second. With a crushing counter, he tags the armored knight, sparking a massive explosion of particle effects. The heavy impact shatters the enemy's posture, leaving him totally stunned by the surprise hit. A brutal chain of attacks melts the health bars of the remaining soldiers, wiping the hallway clean in one go. With the wipeout complete, the rookie turns his head, flexing an unshackable confidence in his own cracked skills. Out in the real world, a guy jumps out of his gaming chair, completely mind-blown by what he's watching. Stunned, the viewer asks out loud who the heck this player is and if he's actually just a beginner. This young guy is pretty famous in the games community for being a hardcore, die-hard fan. Back in the day, the devs taunted the player base, claiming that a direct, combat clear would be borderline impossible. That arrogant dev post just fueled the hype for this fan, who lived for insane challenges. But the ridiculous difficulty of that stage crushed the hopes of everyone who tried to brute force it. The forums were flooded with people roasting any player who tried to Leroy Jenkins the level. The whole community eventually agreed that a frontal assault was just an unbeatable meme. Huge content creators would spend hours just crouching in corners because the game punished you so hard for getting caught. Frustrated, after watching endless fail compilations, the guy was losing hope of ever seeing a flawless run. But fate dropped a crazy plot twist that was about to turn this tragedy around. Hype beyond belief, the viewer pumps his fists, celebrating that he's finally witnessing the legendary suicide rush. He's absolutely amazed that some random, zero-viewer channel is dropping the most flawless gameplay ever. Riding the hype train, the hardcore fan spams the chat, crowning the kid as the absolute god of rogues. On the game screen, a pile of defeated guards proves the sweep is real, while the rest of the audience loses their minds. Keeping his cool, the MC reads chat accusing him of using aimbots because of his cracked mechanics. Finding the salt hilarious, he downplays the whole thing, saying you literally just have to dodge and block on time. Faced with all that swagger, the hardcore fan just deadpans, thinking the streamer's ego is off the charts. Scratching his head with his sword, Seojin threatens to end the stream if chat keeps whining over nothing. Checking the dashboard, he sees he managed to hold all 6 viewers and considers that a solid BU for his debut. Suddenly, the heavy wooden doors of the hall are kicked open with an ear-splitting crash. Heavy, stomping footsteps echo through the room, signaling to chat that the final boss has entered the chat. A colossal swing craters the floor, but the rookie manages to iframe it at the last possible second purely on reflex. Laughing like a maniac, the corrupt noble calls the kid a rat, while the viewers start doubting a win is even possible. Sliding across the polished floor, the warrior creates some space so he can download the new boss's attack patterns. Swinging his weapon wildly, the boss fires waves of red energy that carve up everything in their path. The sword master blocks the heavy hit, but ends up taking some chip damage from the raw impact. Unable to completely negate the knockback, the kid slides back, groaning a bit from the hit. Flashing a sadistic grin, the enemy mocks him, asking what the little noob plans to do now. Sojin's eyes narrow as he notices the boss's health bar barely moved after his combos. Reading chat, our MC calmly asks if it's possible to parry a flail. Chat jokes that he's trying to one-shot the boss. Triggered by the disrespect, Eder charges in swinging his heavy weapon, screaming for the brat to taste his flail. Reading the slow wind up, the noob dodges cleanly while the weapon just smashes the stone floor. With a nimble vault, he launches himself into the air, dodging another massive swing from the boss. The Swordmaster blocks a rapid, fire flurry of hits, sending bright sparks flying. Keeping the pressure up, the corrupt noble spins the flail, creating a dead zone all around him. To avoid getting clipped by the Aoi, Seojin backsteps, jumping far out of the hit zone. Laughing hysterically, the boss claims it's pointless to fight him since he's basically immortal. The DPS check is failing. The constant clashing of weapons triggers a massive burst of green energy, lighting up the whole room. Sliding backward, the kid touches down and realizes his basic attacks are doing absolute garbage damage to the boss. Deep in thought, he wonders if he can just chip the boss down by spamming light attacks. Suddenly, a timer pops up out of nowhere, locking him at 4 minutes and 17 seconds, warning of a mission fail. The guy gets confused by this new mechanic. Zero time to overthink, he quickly blocks another heavy strike coming right at his face. The corrupt noble talks major trash, asking where the brat is looking in the middle of a boss fight. Realizing things are looking grim, our MC knows beating the timer is impossible if he keeps fighting like this. Watching the clock tick down, the kid thinks about targeting weak spots. Then chat drops the tip that hitting the exact same spot stacks damage. Seeing that golden advice on the blue UI, the noob decides he has absolutely nothing to lose by testing the strat. He thanks the chatter for the carry and cues up his next move with complete tunnel vision. Launching off the ground, the warrior jumps super high, gaining the high ground advantage over the boss. With a surgical vertical strike, he lands a clean hit on the boss, chunking him for 70 points of damage. The enemy's health bar melts way faster, proving to the MC that chat's back seat gaming was actually legit. Pissed off by the new strat, the corrupt noble curses the kid out while trying to reset his stance. With 2 minutes left on the clock, the Swordmaster locks his eyes and decides he can't afford a single dropped frame. Going full aggro, he spams the boss with hyper-fast attacks, leaving the viewers totally mesmerized by the beatdown. Staggered by the combo, the enemy grips his weapon with both hands and insults the noob, calling him a rat. Desperate to turn the tide, Eder screams, demanding the intruder drop his weapon right now. Ignoring the temper tantrum, Seojin lands a clean shot right on the boss's face, making him spit out a furious curse. The clock hits the 1-minute warning, and the corrupt noble eats another massive slash, groaning in pain. An absolutely busted combo deletes hundreds of HP, making chat wonder if that kind of clicking speed is even humanly possible. Ending the chain, the noob touches down softly while chat nervously wonders if the boss even has any HP left to give. Turning his head calmly, our MC announces he just needs to land one final hit. Chat completely loses its mind with hype. The timer shows exactly 51 seconds left when a crimson slash finishes the combo string. The camera cuts to an outside shot of the creepy mansion, bathed in the heavy red light of the moon. Inside the dark room, dead silence takes over after the long, sweaty boss fight. Dropped to his knees and leaking pixels, the corrupt noble accuses the kid of being a hypocritical lapdog for the assassins. The defeated boss spits blood and furiously swears he's absolutely not going down alone. The system flashes a massive banner, confirming the tutorial mission was a total success. Miles away in the real world, a hand is aggressively clicking a mouse at a desktop setup. The monitor replays the exact frame where the noob deleted the boss using nothing but parries. The scene shifts to the quiet, modest apartment building, wrapped in the dark silence of the night. Gripping his mouse tight, the amazed fan drops an F-bomb, claiming that run was absolute insanity. Completely shell-shocked at his desk, the guy admits he can't believe he just watched the world's first flawless clear of that stage. Scrolling through the community Reddit, he sees dozens of threads of people losing their minds over the rookie's god-tier mechanics. The stream feed cuts back to the inside of the mansion, focusing again on the window, lit by the red night. Still talking trash, the wounded boss on his knees calls the intruder a hypocritical dog once again. Ripping his own clothes in a crazy panic, the villain cues up his final, completely reckless gimmick. The MC's eyes go wide as he instantly recognizes what the enemy is about to pull off. Without warning, a bunch of glowing red magic circles spawn on the floor all around them. The spell detonates all at once, swallowing the entire room in a ridiculously massive fireball. The brutal knockback from the explosion yeets the kid away, shattering every window on the floor. Spinning mid-air to avoid taking more fall damage, he curses the coward for triggering a self-destruct sequence. Right then, a massive squad of guards shows up in the ruins and instantly spots the intruder glowing in the red light. The noob's expression drops into pure exhaustion, showing how fed up he is with this annoying aggro. Under the blood sky, the soldiers sprint through the forest, screaming orders to bag the rogue. Out of options, the Swordmaster slides down a steep, rocky cliff to shake off the gank squad. The rough landing kicks up a ton of dust as he hits the brakes hard on the uneven ground. Glancing over his shoulder, the guy nervously checks if the mobs are still tracking his aggro. He goes back to full sprinting, leaving a sick blue energy trail in his wake. But the warrior's right foot misclicks, slipping on the smooth edge of the cliff. Unable to cancel the animation in time, our MC plummets into the pitch-black abyss. Reaching out into the void, the kid falls toward the raging river, while the guards watch from the top of the mountain. Hiding in the shadows, a mysterious NPC wearing a Plague Doctor mask just watches the epic fail in total silence. The Swordmaster's body hits the rough water with a heavy thud, sinking straight into the rapids. A gorgeous sunrise breaks over the massive rocky peaks, marking the official end of that marathon night. Dragged by the brutal current, the noob eventually washes up on the shallow banks of a quiet, rocky stream. The character's gloved hand just floats there, completely AFK in the peaceful water. His heavy combat boots are sprawled in the mud, proving his stamina bar was totally depleted from the chase. Completely knocked out by the fall damage, our MC lies face down on the shore, not responding to any inputs. With quiet short steps, a cloaked NPC walks up to the body washed up on the mini beach. The stranger holds a small gadget that blasts a bright gold magic, lighting up the shadows around them. The UI gently pings that player control is returning, while the healer sports a ridiculously calm face. The kid reads chat crying over the sad cutscene of an alley biting the dust, but he looks completely bored by the whole thing. With zero empathy, he claims he would have just parried the arrow instead of the NPC, instantly getting flamed by chat for being heartless. Finding the backlash hilarious, the noob just claps his hands loudly to skip the dramatic dialogue. Dropping the tears, our MC flashes a super confident look and asks his viewers what his next objective is. Reading the quest log, the guy repeats Christina's name and figures he needs to hit up the tavern. Standing outside the pub, he realizes the game just fast-traveled him there after the cutscene ended. Without wasting time, the kid casually strolls right through the front door. The inside is packed with NPCs and players chatting it up in a lively vibe. Scanning the bar in the back, he quickly spots his guildmate waiting around. Locking eyes with her, the guy figures she's definitely the quest giver for the next mission. She looks dead serious and a bit bummed out, lit by the dim tavern lights. Walking up to his partner, the noob acts super helpful and asks if she needs a carry for anything. Christina instantly confirms she's got a major side quest that needs doing. Right then, the kid holds up a small pin, looking surprised as the auto-pilot dialogue triggers again. Seeing the shiny loot, the woman's eyes go wide, completely shell-shocked. She grabs his hand fast, barely able to speak after seeing the item. Super stressed, the guildmate demands to know who the guy really is. Trying to chill her out, our MC tells her to relax, swearing he's just there to help out. Flexing his ego, he claims his stealth stats are way above average and he can handle the job. Impressed, the blonde asks if he knows her and wonders if he's the contact sent from the west. The warrior confirms it fast and asks if his cloud has already reached her. On the streets, rumors about the merc who takes any gig for gold were already pretty well known. Rolling with it, Christina suggests they swap tags to lock in the party invite. Straight to the point, she drops her name and asks what she should call her new mystery carry. Right then, a system text box pops up forcing the player to lock in an official username. Reading chat, the guy notices his viewers are dying to know what his gamertag is going to be. Checking his own profile, he sees the account defaulted to his real name. Deciding to bring back his edgy old mane, the guy picks the classic title he always rocked back in the day. Looking right at his partner, he introduces himself as Nameless, while chat dies laughing at the super tryhard edge, Lord Name. Ignoring the viewers roasting him, the MC remembers how that title used to strike fear in his past life. Staying focused, the player hits confirm on the virtual keyboard without a second thought. Success prompt flashes, and the NPC accepts the warrior's edgy tag without complaining. Changing the subject, the Swordmaster asks how he's supposed to slide into her DMs later. Locked on her own quest, Christina cuts him off, saying she desperately needs to find the owner of that pin. Cold as ice, our MC drops the bomb that he already bared the guy at the West Pier, leaving the NPC totally crushed. Because of that, she hands him a dark stone, explaining it works like a magic walkie-talkie. The game confirms the rare item drop while the noob checks out the rock pretty calmly. Betting everything on the outsider, the woman dumps the whole questline straight onto Nameless's shoulders. Outside the pub after the deal, the warrior strolls through the streets, vibing with the sick sunset lighting. Stretching his arms, he figures he's cleared all his dailies and decides to call it a stream. During his quick outro, the kid tells chat they can call him whatever they want, and announces he's logging off. Saying bye in a super awkward way, he taps the floating UI panel to kill the broadcast. Back in the rig in the real world, the noob fumbles around trying to figure out where the save button is. A quiet night settles over the city, shining on the humble apartment building where the guy crashes. Checking his final analytics, the kid is pretty hyped to see his small, loyal crowd stayed till the very end. Thinking about the goofy usernames of his chat makes the exhausted guy genuinely laugh. Suddenly, a system ping shatters the quiet room, grabbing his attention instantly. Dashboard shows an absolutely massive wave of new viewers flooding the offline chat, leaving our MC totally lost. Gripping his phone, the MC stares at the screen, tracking the crazy viewer count on his VOD. He thinks to himself that the hype wasn't half bad and starts brainstorming content for tomorrow's stream. Out of nowhere, Tiwoo kicks the bedroom door open screaming his buddy's name, scaring him so bad he drops his phone. Annoyed by the jump scare, Seojin gets out of bed and asks if his roommate forgot his manners at dinner. Ignoring the roasting, the veteran just shoves his phone screen in his face, yelling about why the chat is blowing up. Reading the spam, the noob finds it weird that the offline chat is still popping off even though the stream is dead. Completely stunned by the fake, looking numbers, he asks out loud if this is actually legit. Sitting back on the edge of the bed, Tiwoo says he thinks he found the source of all this crazy clout. He flips his phone around, showing a viral Reddit post, swearing up and down that the guy in the clip is his buddy. The highlight reel shows a noob flawlessly parrying 13 enemies back in the tutorial. Mind blown, the veteran asks how he managed to do a 0 damage run on day 1 and already got people to raid his channel. Confused by the streamer lingo, our MC points at the screen asking what a raid even means. Pulling up the comments, Tiwoo explains that the hardcore fan from the live chat is the one who posted the clip everywhere. Looking at the crazy engagement, he warns that at this rate, the post will hit 30 upvotes in no time. With a hyped grin, his friend claims that hitting that milestone pushes the video to the front page and farms even more subs. Flexing his pro status, Tiwoo announces he's going to sleep after pulling an all-nighter streaming, telling his buddy to do the same. Finally alone and chilling in bed, the kid stares at the dark ceiling, trying to process the absolute madness that just happened. Checking his phone one last time, he notices the upvotes spiked again, finally getting why going viral is such a big deal. Beaten by the late-night grind, the noob tosses his phone on the desk, deciding to deal with the internet fame tomorrow. The second he rolls over, dozens of new comment notifications start blowing up his lock screen non-stop. Time skips forward, and a bright, sunny morning lights up the outside of their cheap apartment complex. Just like the veteran called it, the post hits the upvote goal and gets pinned right at the top of the community page. Sitting at his PC, the MC notices the clip went so viral that people are already having toxic arguments in the comments for no reason. Suddenly, a super clickbaity title catches the guy's eye, making him lean in with pure curiosity. The forum theory asks who the new level 10 bot is, claiming the AI's personality completely glitched out overnight. Totally lost on the context, Seojin wonders what the poster means by this weird behavior bug. The post mentions that the clone of the legend used to fight with honor, even waiting for the player if they drop their weapon. But completely trashing that code, the updated AI is now fighting like an absolute sweat with zero chill. The traumatized player complains that the boss just rushes in and combo locks you the second it finds an opening. And to rub salt in the wound, the machine literally BMs a bad manners the dead players, staring at their bodies like they're trash. Chat calling the new bot toxic, our MC facepalms and groans, annoyed that he's getting a villain arc for free. He realizes the bot only copied that cocky attitude because he was chatting with his roommate during the fight. Feeling the heat of the internet's judgment, the guy complains about catching strays and getting cancelled over an AI. Then he notices the forum detectives are already connecting the dots, guessing he's the cracked rogue from the viral clip. Seeing the hardcore fan was the one who leaked it, the noob jokes asking if that user is secretly psychic. Leaning back in his chair, the kid admits to himself he never expected to pull this much aggro so fast. With a dead, serious look, he wisely notes that getting handed too much power overnight is usually a massive red flag. Standing up, the warrior reminds himself that he learned that brutal lesson the hard way in his past life. Staring at the massive VR pod in his room, he figures that claiming power without grinding for it is pure poison. Determined to keep his pacing in check, the Swordmaster locks in his only goal, keep leveling up steadily every single day. The MC's eyes are ice cold, totally locked in and ready for whatever the game throws at him next. A bright blue flash fills the screen, jacking his brain straight into the game's main server. Checking his stats, he's blown away seeing his follower count skyrocketed, exactly like his veteran buddy predicted. Despite the massive numbers, the noob laughs, remembering that only 6 real ones actually stayed for the whole stream. Hitting the Go Live button, the kid flashes a curious grin, wondering how many lurkers will show up today. All systems go, and the platform sends out a push notification saying the rogue's highly anticipated stream is live. The stream title hypes up the massive city of Altian as the new, dangerous playground for today's run. The sweeping view of the capital shows off huge castles and ancient architecture wrapped in a spooky, mysterious fog. The lore drop explains that the massive map is split into the Royal Court, the Magic Tower, the VIP Zone, and the slums. Flashing a bloody blade, the game makes it clear you can either grind quests or just go GTA mode and take out NPCs in the street. Sunlight hits the cobblestones while the NPCs walk around, acting like everything is completely normal. Taking control of his hooded avatar, our MC smiles and waves at the camera, welcoming chat to the stream. The chat box explodes with spam as fans celebrate finally catching the new Legends broadcast live. Seeing chat confused, he confirms he's the real deal and clarifies he didn't pay a dime for any of that Reddit promo. Out of nowhere, a viewer drops a fat dono begging for real strats on how to beat that nightmare tutorial boss. Surprised by the cash, the noob thanks the tipper but flashes a ridiculously cocky, trollish smirk. That massive ego triggers chat instantly, sparking a wave of flaming comments demanding he show some respect to the guy who paid. Realizing he trolled a bit too hard, the Swordmaster backpedals and promises to drop a golden tip to make the dono worth it. He explains that the secret to the boss fight is spamming attacks directly on weak spots to break the enemy's guard super fast. Chat takes notes and the tipper sighs in relief, thanking him while the MC drops a sarcastic, "You're welcome." Noticing a ton of random users typing in chat, the kid decides to check his current live viewer count. The dashboard confirms there are over 300 people watching, leaving the noob totally stunned by the crowd. Sweating bullets from the pressure, he admits this turnout absolutely crushed his most optimistic predictions for today. Trying to focus on the game, our MC checks out the crowded plaza and asks chat what today's main objective should be. The glowing UI pops up with options showing off the insane level of freedom this sandbox game has to offer. Skimming through the spam of random ideas, the noob asks chat to hold on a sec while he sorts through the mess. Weighing options between grinding contracts or just exploring, he praises the open world vibe for letting players do whatever they want. Flashing a devious smirk, the warrior makes an immediate, highly unethical choice for his first move. Staring at the busy street below, the Swordmaster suggests they kick off the stream with a little pickpocketing to warm up. Blending into the crowd, he moves like a ghost, looking for the fattest wallets among the clueless NPCs. Suddenly, a massive bruiser shoves his way through the street, aggressively knocking people aside and telling them to move. Taking a hard hit, one of the innocent NPCs trips badly, groaning as they completely wipe out on the pavement. Pissed at the bully, the citizen yells at the giant, demanding some respect and telling him to watch where he's going. Giving zero craps about the yelling, the arrogant thug just keeps stomping away, getting off totally scot-free. Watching the whole thing go down, our MC shoots a cold glare over his shoulder, instantly marking the mythhead as his next target. Testing his mechanics, the MC realizes that using old martial arts concepts makes pickpocketing hilariously easy. Watching his success rate, chat jokes that the stealing stream just turned into a martial arts tutorial while he bags more loot. Having a blast, the noob figures the best part of stealing is getting aggro from the city guards and getting chased. He jokes that at this farming rate he'll never go broke, while chat spams about his crazy profit margins. Ruining the chill vibe, a deep voice echoes from the alley, calling out to the kid. Turning his head confused, Seojin spots two guys walking up and asks if they're talking to him. The thugs confirm it with zero hesitation, mentioning that the kid has been pulling some pretty interesting stunts around here. Boxing him in, they tell the noob he needs a permit to operate on their turf, leaving the Swordmaster totally lost. Casually holding up one of the stolen coin pouches, he asks if the bandits are talking about his loot. Confirming his guess, the duo demands a cut of the profits, making chat die laughing at the sheer audacity of these NPCs. Loving the freedom of the game, the kid cracks his knuckles and asks chat if he can just wipe these two off the map. Chat gets hyped and confirms it's totally an option. He just needs to go beat up the big boss of their gang. Locked in and full of confidence, our MC announces that today's goal is going to be mopping the floor with the local mafia. Hyped out of their minds, the viewers doubt he even knows who the target is, but they're already grabbing popcorn for the beatdown. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, someone yells an order to track down a fugitive, assuming he hasn't gone far. Scanning the area with a sword drawn, a bald thug keeps a close eye on the dark, main hall of the hideout. Using the shadows, a hand gripping a sharp dagger sneaks along the wooden rafters high up on the ceiling. Hiding up there, veteran streamer Alpaca grumbles, worried he's going to fail this stealth challenge again. Frustrated by the terrible camera angle, the player complains about his line of sight just as hot wax starts dripping from his candle. The boiling drop lands right on the guard's bald head, making him look up furious and curse the intruder for being a rat. With the alarms blaring, the streamer realizes instantly that his stealth run is totally chalked. The respawn screen pops up, and the player drops back into the main street, sighing heavily after taking so many L's. Watching the fail, Chat roasts him, reminding him this is attempt number 4, forcing Alpaca to force a fake, painful smile. Thinking it over, the veteran figures killing the boss would clear the zone, but Chat reminds him that leaders are coded to be unbeatable. These massive VIPs are known as the rulers, the main villains running the entire underworld of the 4th District. This elite squad of bosses includes heavy hitters like the Queen, the Magic Tower Master, and the big royalist leader. And running the violent faction known as the Dismantlers is the terrifying boss, Drake. The biggest issue is that this boss spawns purely on RNG in one of 10 headouts, making the grind an absolute nightmare. Holding a secret map he bought in-game, the veteran checks his items while Chad asks if he's seriously going to try the exact same run again. Refusing to take the L, Alpaca announces the logical first step to pinpoint the exact spawn of the boss. Pulling up to an abandoned theater, the player groans, finding out the boss switched hideouts once again. Then, Chat questions why he's struggling so much, dropping the bomb that some noob just cleared the zone by going in guns blazing. Thanking Adono, Alpaca finds the intel super weird and swears the game severely punishes anyone who tries to brute force it. Ignoring his skepticism, the viewers double down and tell the veteran to go check the community Reddit right now. Pulling up the browser, the blonde streamer is genuinely blown to see someone actually pulled off that suicide strat. Driven by pure ego, he screams that he's also going to beat the boss in face-to-face combat and declares an all-night stream. Testing the veteran's ego, a user drops a massive dono asking if he's really going to back up that crazy promise. Full of himself, Alpaca takes the bet claiming it'll be easy money, but instantly realizes the terrible mistake he just made. Panic sets in as the streamer realizes he just dug his own grave, while Chat roasts him and tells him to just take the L. Trying to salvage a drop of dignity, the guy forces a cuff and fixes his posture, while getting heavily booed by his own chat. The audience calls it a dead run already, knowing there's zero chance he actually pulls off this insane challenge. Cutting to a totally different vibe, the loud clang of a metal pipe smashing into the ground echoes through a dark alley. Total chaos takes over the enemy base as dozens of thugs are sent flying while guards scream in panic for backup. Walking up the fortress stairs like he's on a stroll, our MC pushes forward, leaving a trail of knocked out bodies in his wake. Flexing ruthless confidence, the Swordmaster proves the beatdown is just getting started, leaving his audience absolutely mesmerized. Rewinding the clock 30 minutes before the sweep, the noob is stealthily tailing those exact same thugs from the market. Watching the chase through the dirty alley, Chad asks where they're going and points out the vibe here is pretty sketchy. Our MC decides to keep tailing the duo, but the viewers warn him that stalking them isn't going to drop any boss intel. The audience explains you have to grind side quests to track down the leader, making the kid ask if the gang is really that tough. Mind blown by how clueless the player is, users ask if he even comprehends the sheer power behind the title of ruler. Chat breaks into a massive spam of laughing emotes at the Swordmaster's innocence, since he still has no idea why they're cracking up. Annoyed by the trolling, he crosses his arms and demands someone explain who the heck this ruler guy even is. Chat roasts him, bringing up how he didn't even know what a parry was, forcing the guy to admit he had to Google strats last night. Pulling up what he read, Seojin remembers that NPCs who snitch usually get heavily targeted by the enemy faction. Realizing that mechanic is super annoying, he figures the fastest way is to just beat the info out of the thugs until they fold. Back in the present alleyway, the kid flags down the duo and politely demands they hand over everything in their pockets. Finding the threat hilarious, the robbers turn around mocking him, pointing out that the bag he's holding is already stolen loot. Watching the boldness, Chat loses it seeing the rogue try to solo mug the muggers like it's the easiest thing in the world. Done with the jokes, the noob pokes the thug hard in the chest and repeats his order to cuff up the items immediately. Laughing at the cocky attitude, the criminals ignore the warning, thinking the kid is just bluffing because he's scared. The MC's eyes narrow with pure annoyance as the thugs taunt him, aggressively demanding his cash. Completely ignoring their dangerous threats, the kid cuts to the chase and asks for the exact coordinates of their boss. That level of disrespect makes the thug snap, yelling that he'd never leak top-tier intel to some random lunatic. Hearing the obvious no, Seojin tightens his leather glove, making it clear that playtime is officially over. Flashing a creepy smirk, he calmly announces he's about to start the beatdown session to loosen their tongues. Backing the incoming violence, Chat loves the player's aggro energy, joking that catching hands is a universal language. Totally confused by the unearned swagger, the mugger frowns, failing to understand the crazy kid's delusion. Losing his mind, the gang leader points a finger and orders the rest of his crew to jump the intruder and teach him a lesson. Reacting to the threat instantly, a red streak cuts through the air with absolutely terrifying speed. The Swordmaster shoots down the alley like a bullet, running right over the enemy front line without breaking a sweat. Dropping a devastating AoE attack, he sweeps the thugs out of his way, sending a massive shockwave down the street. Trying for a sneak attack, one of the bandits leaps from the shadows with a dagger, screaming curses at the noob. With perfectly tuned reflexes, the warrior tracks the enemy's animation without showing a single drop of panic. Blocking the lethal dive with ridiculous ease, he stops the enemy's blade using nothing but his armored forearm. Capitalizing on the rival's broken stance, he slams the thug into the cobblestone with brutal force. Smacking the ground hard, the thug lets out an agonizing scream as his body gets crushed against the alley stones. Right then, our MC is already winding up his weapon at light speed, prepping the next hit before the enemy can even blink. Seeing his buddy get bodied, the red-haired bandit raises his blade, furious, and curses the noob with everything he's got. But before he can even finish the animation, Seojin nails him with a lightning, fast, ruthless strike. Totally staggered, the bandit stumbles back groaning in pain, trying to process the ridiculous speed of the hit he just tanked. The warrior's gaze is ice-cold and calculated, focused purely on ending the fight as fast as physically possible. The open guard, the kid dashes in again and drops a devastating vertical slash that tears through the enemy's chest. Unable to parry that much raw damage, the redhead completely loses his balance and starts collapsing to the ground. The dust settles, revealing Seojin standing tall in the dead, quiet alley, surrounded by the bodies of the downed thugs. Watching the sweep, chat goes absolutely wild, hyping up his combat style and joking about trying to copy his moves. Totally humiliated, the last surviving thug drops to his knees, cursing his luck while shaking with pure fear. He tries to act tough, but his wrecked HP bar makes it obvious he doesn't have the stamina to keep fighting. Casually holding his dagger, our MC cuts to the chase and demands the exact spawn location for Drake. Acting stubborn, the bandit spits his words out, swearing he'll never leak his boss's coordinates. As a direct reply, the Swordmaster fires off a lightning, fast strike that leaves the thug absolutely paralyzed with terror. Holding the blade right at the enemy's throat, the kid repeats his question about Drake while the thug stutters in panic. The noob demands an answer right now, but chat laughs, telling him the NPC is locked in a stun animation and literally can't speak. Ignoring the game's code, the warrior drops another brutal hit just to make sure the message got through. Shaking from head to toe, the thug finally points a trembling finger and leaks that the hideout is on 13th Street. Satisfied with the intel, Seojin backs off, guessing the target is camping in the biggest theater in that zone. Watching this unhinged interrogation method, chat is mind blown and immediately starts calling the MC a literal demon. Walking away like nothing happened, the player spins a small blade, complaining that his last weapon had zero reach and felt awful to use. He scans the trash around the map, hoping the devs left some better loot lying around in the dumpster. Finding a heavy metal pipe, the kid gets into a combat stance, satisfied that this makeshift weapon will carry him through the quest. Pulling up to the new hideout, a massive crash echoes as the Swordmaster kicks off his raid, smashing everything in sight. The raw knockback of his swings sends multiple defenders flying across the room like they weigh absolutely nothing. Swinging the metal pipe like a pro, Seojin hands out heavy beatdowns, dropping every thug that tries to push him. Riding the momentum of the brawl, he jumps fiercely and brings the weapon down in a totally devastating overhead smash. With zero chance to block, another mob drops to his knees, bleeding heavy from the massive hit to the back. The main hall of the Grand Theater is now dead silent, completely littered with the bodies of the gang the noob just wiped. The metal pipe drips pixel blood onto the floor, proving just how chaotic that sweep really was. Resting the weapon on his shoulder, the kid sighs, complaining that the devs really overdid it by stuffing 30 enemies into one room. Breaking the silence, a voice echoes from the rafters, laughing loudly and praising the intruder's sick run. Suddenly, a sharp flash cuts through the air, signaling a sneak attack dropping straight from the dark ceiling. Catching onto the danger, Seojin reacts on frame 1, locking his eyes onto the threat flying at him at high speed. With a slick move, he parries the projectile, sparking a flash that lights up the pitch black theater. Up in the rafters, the mystery attacker's eyes go wide, slightly impressed by the random intruder's perfect block. Without dropping the combo, the enemy rains down a literal storm of throwing daggers that fall like meteors on the player. Facing the massive AO, our MC grips his iron pipe tight, bracing for the heavy impact. Spinning the heavy weapon defensively, he throws up an insane block string to deflect the barrage of blades. Sparks explode everywhere as he parries every single projectile, leaving chat absolutely stunned by his god-tier reflexes. Satisfied with the skill check, the man drops smoothly to the floor, giving props to the intruder's solid mechanics. He stands tall and proud, flexing his sharp weapons and radiating pure confidence in his own DPS. Finally revealing himself as Drake, the big boss of the faction, he taunts the kid, asking if he can parry this next combo. With that, the boss launches a lethal dash, firing off a massive wave of purple magic slashes across the ruined room. The energy blades tear through the air violently, instantly cutting off almost all of the MC's escape routes. Without breaking a sweat, Seojin reads the hitboxes while Chat screams in panic about the bullet hell attack. Spinning the iron pipe non-stop, the warrior deflects every single purple magic wave with surgical precision. Punishing the end of the attack animation, he dashes in and rips an uppercut swing with monstrous strength. The brutal clash of metal against the boss's weapons triggers a booming shockwave that rattles the whole theater. Knocked back by the raw kinetic energy, Drake looks completely dumbfounded while the Chat goes absolutely ballistic. With the momentum on his side, the Swordmaster proves he's running the lobby, making Chat wonder if there's anything he can't parry. Respecting the opponent's insane talent, the villain adjusts his glove impressed and politely asks for the intruder's gamertag. Keeping his usual chill vibe, the kid simply replies that he has no name, catching the viewers completely off guard. Finding the answer pretty badass, the boss praises the choice that swears that strong warriors always deserve respect. But the friendly vibe dies instantly when the boss mysteriously announces he's about to enter his second phase. The enemy's aura shifts entirely as he whips out a nasty chain scythe, proving the real boss fight has just started. Keeping the pressure up, the villain hurls the heavy metal tip right at the kid's face with terrifying speed. Hyper-focused on the threat, Seojin raises his iron bar at the last possible frame, cleanly deflecting the lethal projectile. The heavy clash of the weapons unleashes a bright shockwave that kicks up all the dust in the room. Moving as fast as lightning, the noob glides across the massive hall, getting out of the ow instantly. Drake's deadly chain has homing, ripping a sharp turn mid-air and flying back to try and slice the target again. But with agility that breaks the game's limits, the kid dodges the boss's entire chaotic, acrobatic combo string. During his flawless dodging, he thinks to himself that the hitboxes on this new weapon are incredibly easy to read. The warrior's eyes never lose track of the target, calmly downloading every single frame of the faction leader's moveset. He quickly figures out that this exact, annoying chain combo is what gatekept older players from beating the boss. Dropping his shoulders, our MC actually praises the devs for putting together such a deep combat system. Annoyed by how relaxed the intruder looks, Drake gets a little salty and asks why the kid isn't even trying to swing back. Switching to full aggro mode, the villain yells that he's taking the lead and dashes across the wooden floor like a predator. Clashing with the player head-on, the boss unleashes a furious storm of slashes coated in dark, heavy magic. Rock-solid arms, Seojin uses his rusty metal pipe to tank the lethal assault without giving up a single inch of ground. The constant grinding of metal lights up the dark, abandoned theater, showing the two locked in a brutal turf war. While holding down the fort against the heavy blows, the noob admits this duel is way better than the mob fight outside. Inching in the air, the boss drops a colossal overhead smash, forcing the Swordmaster to tank the entire hit. But flashing the confidence of a pro, the kid blocks the wipe mechanic, claiming he already knows exactly how to win. Winding up his next attack, Drake mocks him, asking if the intruder really thinks a trash weapon is enough to carry him. Keeping up the relentless pressure, the villain furiously swears he'll never let the challenger walk out alive. Just then, a massive boom rocks the hall as the two warriors clash, detonating a wave of purple magic. Pushed back by the blast, the boss is completely stunned to see the system register a perfect block. Locked in, Seojin notes that parrying instantly deletes trash mobs, but against bosses, it only opens a tiny punish window. Watching the enemy's guard, our MC realizes the chains act as a shield around the boss, making it super hard to land a clean hit. But overflowing with confidence, the kid declares that this massive debuff doesn't apply to his gameplay at all. Gripping the iron pipe tight, the noob figures he just needs to input the exact right sequence to secure the W. Stomping his foot down hard, the Swordmaster flashes back to the thousands of times he drilled this exact stance to perfection. Using his solid footing, he transfers all the weight and kinetic energy from his legs straight into his next swing. A red aura starts swirling violently in the air, signaling the wind up for an absolutely devastating heavy attack. Engulfed in magic, the warrior raises his heavy metal bar, dropping into a flawless combat stance. Crushed by the overwhelming pressure, Drake freezes, just watching the insane power spiking right in front of him. Spotting the perfect opening, Seojin locks his crosshairs straight onto the enemy's completely unarmored head. Showing zero mercy, the kid drops an apocalyptic vertical smash that tears the arena apart in an explosion of pink energy. Watching the beatdown live, chat loses its collective mind, seeing the boss get bonked, spamming how easy he made it look. Holding his weapon like it's nothing, Seojin admits he was kinda worried about running a different body in VR. But the game's engine actually auto-corrects and micro-adjusts the player's footwork to make it optimal. On top of the footwork, the AI also tweaks the torso rotation to make sure the impact hits as hard as possible. Rounding out the aim, the trajectory of the arms gets perfectly smoothed out during the attack animation. Realizing how much the system carries, our MC sighs in relief, knowing IRL physical limits don't matter if your inputs are clean. Snapping the kid out of his thoughts, a sharp metallic screech rings through the hall, signaling a new attack. Reacting purely on instinct, the Swordmaster backdashes, barely dodging the purple scythe that craters the stone floor. Completely tilting, Drake points at the intruder and screams every toxic curse word he can think of. Desperate to clutch the fight, the leader spams an insane barrage of magic blades, ordering the brat to just die already. Moving with god-tier frames, the warrior glides through the arena, framing every single lethal projectile the boss throws. Punishing the end lag of the combo, Seojin dashes in like lightning, closing the gap in the blink of an eye. With a brutal hit, the boss gets launched into the ground, taking massive damage and kicking up dust everywhere. Watching the humiliating sweep, the audience roasts the boss, spamming that you can't cheese the MC with the same cheap trick twice. After dropping his opponent, the noob steps onto the red carpet, queuing up his finisher to end the raid once and for all. Riding the adrenaline rush, Seojin admits he's having the time of his life just swinging his weapon again. Pure hype in his eyes, he thinks about how his combat mastery is the only real proof left of his past life. Without hesitating, the kid unleashes a colossal ultimate attack that splits the air, triggering a deafening boom across the theater. The brutal shockwave sends the old props flying into the air as dead silence takes over the room once again. Completely deleted by the relentless combo, Drake lets out a painful groan as he drops to his knees. With the faction leader finally defeated, a massive pillar of light shoots up, confirming the violent boss fight is officially over. The terrifying underworld boss is now face down in the rubble, completely wiped out and out of HP. Resting his weapon on his shoulder, our MC gets the system prompt confirming the W and dropping a fragment of order as LUT. The stream chat turns into absolute chaos, with fans crowning him a god and dropping massive donos for the world first clear. Startled by the alert sounds from the tips, the Swordmaster checks the chat UI, totally lost on why everyone is freaking out. The kid is blown away by the live viewer count, wondering when the stream got so insanely packed. Outside, the sun starts to set over the massive gang heading out as the dust from the battle finally settles inside. Still frozen in the middle of the room, the noob tries to process the stats on his screen, totally shell-shocked by his own success. He realizes his concurrent viewers are in the hundreds, which is way higher than his total follower count. Clueless on how to handle all this sudden love, the warrior just stares at the dashboard, feeling his face burn with embarrassment. A quick flashback hits him, remembering the veteran yelling at him to always give it 100% if his stream ever blew up. Trying to play it cool, our MC tells himself not to overact, but admits he can't hide how incredibly hyped he is. Reading the chat spamming praises about his god-tier mechanics, he curiously asks if that clear was really a world first. The crowd responds with peak meme energy, dubbing the kid the metal pipe rogue, because of the troll weapon he used. He thanks another fat dono, while chat jokes about how terrifying it would be to get bonked by that heavy pipe. Snapping back to the game, the Swordmaster holds up a finger, telling chat he still has one major question. Looking at the pile of knocked-out thugs scattered everywhere here, he asks why the city guards haven't shown up to arrest them yet. Chat laughs and explains the game's cops are basically cowards who refuse to enter gang turf during missions because they're scared. Finally understanding the game's aggro mechanics, the kid suggests to his chat that it's probably time to bounce. With his cape blowing in the wind, the noob casually walks through the glowing city streets after pulling off an absolute massacre. Suddenly, a soft voice calls out his gamertag, making him stop dead in his tracks and pay attention. Curious about the late-night random encounter, Seojin turns around, taking in the dark, quiet vibe of the capital. Keeping his guard up, he bluntly asks who would be looking for him after all that crazy drama. A mystery NPC in a cloak's out of the shadows, walking up to the hero looking super chill. The girl pulls back her hood, revealing herself as Christina, and praises him for clapping the boss while chat goes crazy over her model. Holding out a small bag of coins, the blonde drops a huge "thank you" for nerfing the crime rate in that zone. Handing over the loot, the girl doubles down on how grateful she is that he wiped the gang out of the theater. Our MC grabs the shiny item as the system pings, confirming his rep leveled up and depositing the local currency into his inventory. Checking the VOD, the kid finds it weird that he got the quest rewards without ever formally accepting the prompt from the NPC. He mentions he doesn't even have anything to spend the gold on, but chat assures him the AI always pays out the server's heroes. Riding the good vibes, the Swordmaster asks the girl what the next big move is for this sketchy storyline. Turning on the charm, Christina turns around and playfully asks if she really has to spill all the lore to a rookie right now. Right after, she says she needs to head out first, waving goodbye and promising they'll definitely cross paths again. Staying quiet, the noob watches the mysterious girl slowly fade into the busy, sunlit street. With her gone, Seojin turns his head, ready to figure out his next move for the final stretch of this crazy gaming session. Staring at the absolute war zone he left in the back alley, he reads a comment asking if that level of chaos even counts as stealth. Annoyed, the kid argues he never agreed to that label, making chat die laughing at him, trying to deny the obvious. Proud of his sweep, the guy adjusts his gloves and announces he's cleared all his dailies, officially calling it a stream. Panicking over the sudden outro, fans flood the chat begging him to run one more quest before going to sleep. Ignoring the chat's desperate pleas, our MC waves at the camera, saying bye to the viewers before pulling the plug on the server. The link cuts out, and the noob's mind drops back into the reality of his own bedroom. Popping the VR pod open, he sighs in relief, stretching his stiff muscles after the marathon session. Chilling on his bed and chugging some water, the kid scrolls on his phone while his roommate watches him like a hawk. Breaking the silence, Tiwoo calls out his buddy, asking what he thinks he's doing creeping in someone else's room. Super chill, Seojin says he was off the clock and just decided to lurk in the veteran's stream to kill time. Triggered by the disrespect, his buddy claps back that it's his room too and complains about how clean he left the place. A little later, the Swordmaster is standing by his PC when his roommate asks how the stream numbers looked. Checking his screen, he confirms the hype was real and that they actually broke the 400 viewer milestone. Out of nowhere, Tiwoo lunges and snatches the phone right out of the noob's hand, demanding to see the receipts. The screen is looping a clip from the stream, showing the exact frame our MC was hunting down the boss. The VOD highlights the nuke attack that deleted the target, while the comments spam memes about the fight. Scrolling down the Reddit thread, users are begging to know who this mystery player is in theory, crafting about the new loot drops. Looking at it calmly, Seojin realizes the community literally has zero intel on what that fragment of order actually does. Hooked by the mystery, he wonders if that drop is locked behind clearing the game on extreme difficulty. Gripping the phone tight, the veteran reads the comments and angrily tells chat to stop leaking private streams. Handing the phone back, Tiwoo warns him that blowing up on the internet usually brings out a ton of toxic haters. Unfazed by the warning, our MC listens as his buddy asks if he's enjoying all this new clout. Taking his phone back, the noob asks what the meta strategy is for handling this massive wave of viewers. His buddy points at the screen, mentioning that the community has over 10,000 people tracking his posts right now. Completely mind blown by the stat, Seojin turns around and asks how he can push those numbers even higher. Standing in the middle of the room, he waits for his veteran roommate to drop some guru-level advice. The screen shows a post roasting some other players' fail, telling him to just give up on the impossible run. Reading the tagged name, the kid gets super confused and asks out loud who the heck this alpaca guy is. The forum shows a thumbnail of the streamer coping, swearing he's going to keep throwing himself at the boss. Finding the cope hilarious, the noob jokes around, asking if his buddy is going to take the blame for the guy's inevitable rage. Quit. Glued to his phone, Tiwoo suddenly calls the kid's name, totally shifting the vibe of the conversation. He remembers the creator they were just mocking and mentions that the two of them actually did some collabs back in the day. Dropping this random lore, the veteran looks the Swordmaster dead in the eye and says he needs a massive favor. Cutting to a new scene, Alpaca is spawned on the ground in VR, sighing in pure exhaustion after catching another brutal L. The glowing UI confirms his 13th failure in a row while chat relentlessly trolls him, telling him to just uninstall. Sitting on a virtual rock, the blonde instantly regrets not just cheesing the boss with normal strats. Suddenly a loud, obnoxious laugh ruins the piece, making the streamer snap his neck back in confusion. A giant virtual mascot runs across the screen as a user named Big Bang sprints up to his buddy. Shaking with panic, the newcomer screams the streamer's name, giving the guy a massive jump scare while he was resting. Unable to hit the brakes, the guy trips over his own feet, screaming as he faceplants hard into the dirt. With that epic fail happening right next to the mascot, the audience shows no mercy, spamming thousands of laughing emotes at the clown show. With a face full of pixels, Big Bang deadpans that this is absolutely not the time for memes. A fat dono pops up, calling out the streamer's promise to bow down to whoever actually cleared the challenge. Refusing to believe the news, Alpaca demands to know if some absolute madman actually beat the mission. To prove the world first run, the guy drops a holographic UI showing the direct link to the Swordmaster's VOD. Looking super proud, Big Bang swears he would never fake a troll this complex just to mess with the veteran. The video auto-plays, proving the mystery player absolutely steamrolled the gang leader without breaking a sweat. Utterly shocked by the clip, the blonde mutters to himself, wondering who the heck has mechanics that busted. Staring at the warrior's victory pose on screen, the creator stutters, trying to read the new gaming god's tag. But before he can even finish his sentence, a glowing DM notification jumps onto his screen out of nowhere. Annoyed at getting pinged while he's shook, Alpaca taps the virtual letter, grumbling about who's sliding into his DMs. Opening the mystery mail, the veteran's eyes instantly widen, showing pure tension and absolute focus on the text. Morning sunlight hits the massive, intimidating corporate HQ of Moviesoft Korea. Sipping his coffee like a boss, Executive Eve Fimo is just soaking in the peaceful vibe of his office. He takes a deep breath of the brew, looking totally satisfied with this rare moment of chill. Shattering the peace, his assistant kicks the office door wide open, screaming for the boss. Pissed at the jump scare, the exec asks if the guy forgot how doors work, getting a clunky apology in return. Fixing his posture, the boss demands to know why he's freaking out, and the employee drops a massive red flag. Without hesitating, the guy reveals in total shock that one of the game's major rulers just got wiped. Making it worse, he confirms the player completely swept the zone using a full send frontal assault. The executive's face goes ice cold as he asks which boss took the L, finding out it was the dreaded Drake. Thinking it over, Eve remembers that all the other big bads considered that villain the weakest link anyway. Leaning back in his chair, the exec laughs it off, saying it was about time somebody put that boss in the dirt. But the assistant is stressing out, worried that the player base is going to figure out the fragments of order. He pushes back, reminding Eve that the CEO himself coded that whole system specifically to gatekeep that loot. This mystery fragment is a hidden drop that only spawns if you absolutely obliterate a ruler. But the game's engine was hard-coded, so the main bosses literally can't be beaten without a specific gimmick. Unlocking that secret tech requires a super specific questline, leaving any rusher in deep trouble if they just try their luck. The exec is confident because that mechanic was literally designed to time, gate progress, and force a massive grind. The whole wall exists just to make the community dump dozens of hours into theory, crafting before they can move forward. Looking at the Reddit threads overflowing with theories, the employee realizes the community is already sweating to find the strat. Even with his boss's logical breakdown, the guy is still panicking over the butterfly effect of this random clear. Arguing that gamers always break the impossible, he points out that the player was literally streaming the whole thing live. Hearing that detail, the boss stops rubbing his temples and processes what he just heard. Pinning his employee with a glare, the exec instantly pieces together that the guy was watching Twitch on company time. Busted, the assistant drops to his knees, begging the boss not to fire him or hit him with a massive penalty. Ignoring the crocodile tears, Eve slumps back at his desk, fuming that he lost his chance to rip the guy a new one. Staring at his monitors, the exec forces his brain back to the game, coping hard that players won't piece the items together. Miles away from the corporate drama, in a high-end apartment, streamer Alpaca looks totally lost asking about a collab request. His buddy Sue calmly confirms the schedule, reminding him he already pitched this event way in advance. Staring at the promo on his phone, the streamer doubts that carrying a noob is going to pull any good views. Standing his ground, the manager tells his friend he's reading the meta completely wrong. The veteran clarifies that the mystery kid wasn't invited just to be some random filler guest on the broadcast. Actually, the entire stream was engineered with one goal: hype the noob up as the absolute god of the game. Finding the whole pitch ridiculous, Alpaca questions giving a master title to a kid who literally installed OBS 3 days ago. Totally ignoring the rookie's viral clout, he claims he only cares about the pro league and everyone else is just trash. Tired of the argument, his buddy sits on the couch and asks if he can borrow the streamer's VR rig when the guest arrives. He explains the kid has a terrible sync rate and desperately needs the most high-end, cracked setup in the house to play. Refusing to loan out his expensive toy, Alpaca turns his back salty and says he's just going to watch the call-up from his room. Left alone in the living room, manager Sue stares at the closed door, bummed about how tilted his friend has been lately. Suddenly, a massive realization hits Sue's brain, making him stop dead in his tracks in the hallway. He connects the dots and realizes how absurd it is that someone swept the game using brute force without even having a decent VR rig. The shock makes the guy swallow hard, instantly regretting pitching this whole collab idea to the channel. Snapping him out of his panic, the doorbell rings through the luxury apartment, signaling the VIPs have arrived. Walking to the door feeling sketchy, Su's eyes bug out when he sees who's standing on the other side. Assuming the sick avatar was just a good preset, he's speechless, realizing Seojin is ridiculously good, looking in real life too. Confused by the host freezing up, the kid innocently asks what this character customization thing they keep talking about is. Panicking internally, streamer Alpaca loses his mind over the noob's flawless face, thinking about how long it takes to tweak his own avatar. Killing the awkward vibe, Tiwoo throws his hand up and greets the veterans cheerfully, proving they go way back. Being a good host, Han invites them in and gives the guests a tour down the massive hallway of the penthouse. Looking around, Seojin is totally blown away by the pristine decor and the crazy amount of money in the place. Passing by a massive gaming room packed with rigs, he notices how the owners strictly separate their grind from their chill zones. Impressed by the streamer money, our MC accepts a coffee and gets comfortable in the living room. Showing some manners, veteran Tiwoo immediately jumps up to help prep the drinks in the fancy kitchen. Sitting quietly, the kid watches his roommate roast the hosts, amazed at how easily the guy makes friends. Right then, the Swordmaster's thoughts are cut short when he spots someone sneaking up on the living room. The homeowner chills out and formally introduces himself to the VIP guest of the night. Dropping his title, the host explains he's the general manager and head editor for Alpaca's channel, getting a nod from the noob. Locking in this new alliance with mutual respect, the two guys share a firm, polite handshake, but the kid's eyes narrow as he feels the guy squeezing way too hard, instantly clocking the cheap alpha, male power play. Without letting go, Soo-Hen praises his brutal gameplay, but cuts right to the chase about the guy's famous low sync rate. Trying to dig up some exclusive lore, the manager presses him on how long he's been playing, and the kid gives a super vague answer. Once the coffee arrives, our MC casually drops the bomb that he used to grind the competitive league 7 years ago. Hearing about that ancient era leaves Alpaca totally stunned, trying to wrap his head around how old that meta is. Staring the kid down, the manager demands to know his true peak rank, only to find out he was hard stuck silver. Smelling cap on this whole backstory, the editor swears it's impossible to get cracked out of nowhere after a 7-year break. To call his bluff, the host gets aggressive and challenges the noob to a 1v1 in the training arena right now. Not understanding the sudden toxicity, Alpaca tries to step in, but his friend insists on testing the guest's mechanics himself. Munching on a cookie like he hasn't a care in the world, Tiwoo finds the drama hilarious and hypes the host up to try his luck. Laughing on the inside, the veteran knows perfectly well that challenging that monster to a duel is a guaranteed trip to the respawn screen. Drooling ticks off Soo-Han, who scowls and asks cockily if everyone in the room really thinks he's going to lose. Keeping up the banter, the buddy swallows his food and explains that just catching an L is the least of his worries in this matchup. Watching the beef escalate fast, the Swordmaster scratches his neck, looking a bit awkward about the weird vibes in the room. Sick of the jokes, the manager takes a deep breath and demands that whatever happens in the game stays strictly off the record. Flashing a glowing chip, he arrogantly guarantees that fighting him will be a bigger nightmare than the machine's max-level bot. The streamer's eyes bug out in pure shock, finally connecting the dots and figuring out his buddy's secret Smurf account. Resting his chin on his hand, Seojin gets super intrigued, realizing he's about to duel the server's most infamous mystery player. Flawless defense, Seojin parries the machine's brutal dive and already buffers his counter-attack on the same frame. The violent clash of the weapons triggers a massive blue owie explosion across the arena. The fight on his phone, Alpaca and the manager are totally speechless at what they're seeing. Soo-Hen immediately admits, totally hyped, that the AI's movement is straight-up genius level. But he quickly notices the match was a complete wash, since the noob only took hits on purpose and never actually got outplayed. Keeping his ego intact, the manager tells Alpaca he'd have to grind for 80 years to even stand a chance against the kid. Loving that iconic line, Tiwoo jokes that he's actually nervous about the collab now, while the host is just vibrating with hype. Soo-Hen stares out the massive penthouse window, taking in the city skyline in dead silence. Breaking the moody vibe, he suddenly calls out the MC's name. Confused by the random call out, Seojin turns his head, waiting to hear what the guy has to say. Getting super serious, the manager announces that from this second forward, the dynamic is changing. Right then, he bows a full 90 degrees and swears he's going to treat the kid like his master, sending Alpaca into full panic mode. Grabbing the Swordmaster's leg with zero shame, Soo-Hen drops to the floor, fully embracing the fanboy life. Completely blindsided by the weird behavior, the noob has no clue how to handle the situation. Explaining his logic, the host swears that anyone with God-tier mechanics gets his absolute respect and begs the kid to drop the formalities. Our MC appreciates the hype, but quickly reminds the guy there's a pretty big age gap between them. Ignoring common sense, the manager argues that caring about age is boomer mentality and keeps calling the guy master. But the lore drop about the 7-year break finally clicks in the host's brain, making him freeze on the spot. Soo-Hen puts the pieces together and guesses the kid might actually be that legendary player from back in the day. The manager goes dead silent, making Alpaca suspicious of the weird reaction and asking what's going on. Hiding his shock, Soo-Hen changes the subject at lightning speed, warning that the veteran's stream is about to go live. Checking the time, Alpaca starts panicking because he's literally late for his own broadcast. Leaning against the wall, the manager goes back to theory, crafting about who his guest really is. Deciding he's just overthinking it, he tells Seojin to go get geared up for the event. Without wasting a second, Han basically shoves the kid toward the VR room to speedrun the setup. Once plugged into VR, the veteran takes a deep breath, getting ready to drop a cinematic intro. The game's UI immediately gets flooded with thousands of messages from viewers spamming welcomes. Flexing his streamer charisma, Alpaca throws his arms wide and hypes up his chat with massive energy. Watching on his phone, Seojin sees his buddy kick off the broadcast by trolling the chat. The veteran reads a sarcastic message asking if the crowd is only there for him and pretends to be super hurt by the roast. Putting on a dramatic show, the blonde wipes away a fake tear and complains about his chat's toxic energy. But then he points at a specific message on the screen, shouting out one of his most loyal VIP viewers. The user demands he stick to his promise of brute, forcing the heady out, making the streamer freeze instantly. Annoyed by the backseat gaming, Alpaca jokingly bans the fan and swears he is absolutely not doing that run. Flipping the switch to serious mode, the content creator slams his cup on the desk, getting everyone's attention. Totally hyped, he screams at the top of his lungs that the impossible challenge is going down today. The arena gets flooded with hype as the veteran officially announces his legendary suicide rush. Striking a dramatic pose, Alpaca proudly introduces the master who's going to carry him through the level. The chat goes wild, loving the top intro and joking that he totally kidnapped a pro player. Pointing at a spotlight on the stage, the host cues the VIP guest to step out and face the crowd. But nothing happens and dead silence fills the virtual room, leaving the streamer completely lost and hanging. Realizing the intro just flopped hard, Alpaca starts sweating while chat begins spamming question marks. The crowd mocks him, guessing the collab is just going to be a Discord call, sending the veteran into a panic. Desperate, he shoots a DM to the kid, asking if they're having tech issues behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Seojin's UI pings in his peripheral vision, getting the sauce from his streaming partner. Without skipping a beat, the noob clicks the system prompt to accept the fast travel invite. He pops into existence right next to the streamer, completely destroying the cinematic entrance they planned. The chat shows zero mercy, flooding the screen with omegalels and laughing at the epic fail. Users start trolling, asking if this clumsy dude is really the god tier carry they were promised. Trying to play off the cringe, Seojin waves at the camera and apologizes for missing his cue. Sitting on a hay bale, the kid tries to defend himself, reminding everyone he's still a total noob on the platform. Chat keeps roasting him without holding back, making the Swordmaster feel slightly attacked by the memes. Ignoring the spam, the viewer count skyrockets, hitting almost 20,000 concurrents. Furious at the trolling, Alpaca yells at his chat, demanding they show some respect to the VIP guest. The veteran sighs, exhausted, realizing his community thinks flaming creators is just peak content. He knows every channel has its own vibe. Some are super heavily modded while others are just pure unhinged chaos. Silence drops over the virtual farm again while the duo just watches the wall of text fly by. Breaking the tension, Seojin says he actually finds this chaotic energy pretty fun, making his buddy sigh in relief. Clapping his hands loudly, the blonde decides to pivot and drag the stream back on track. He thanks the kid for clapping the faction boss, admitting that Carrie totally saved his channel. Chat drops a dono telling Seojin to stop laughing, since this whole mess was 100% the veteran's fault. Trying his hardest not to burst out laughing, the noob agrees with chat, saying the blonde dug his own grave. Siding with the audience, the Swordmaster admits his buddy definitely takes a lot of the blame here. Defending his own run, the kid jokes that nobody could have predicted a fresh install would clear the zone on day 2. The audience backs the noob and keeps pinning the blame on the host, who just takes the L in silence. Watching his partner, Alpaca is blown away by how the kid handles a massive crowd without sweating a drop. In fact, the guy looks like he's thriving, which makes the streamer way more relaxed about the whole event. Taking the blame, the veteran claps his hands together and begs the Grandmaster to save him from being cancelled. Taking the wheel again, the blonde happily announces they've got 2 main segments lined up for today. Pointing at a massive virtual screen, he explains part 1 is going to be a live coaching session inside the game. Curious, Seojin asks about the second segment, but his buddy says the final challenge is staying top secret. Right then, the kid asks about a specific game mechanic, admitting he hasn't spent a single skill point yet. The veteran's eyes bug out, asking what kind of psychopath tries to brute force the game without using the skill tree. A totally chill, our MC reveals he hasn't touched magic and genuinely asks if it's required to beat the game. Faced with that level of noobness, Alpaca looks like he's having a panic attack, while chat roasts his visible despair. A completely lost, Alpaca asks why he'd make such a throw of a choice, and the noob just says he didn't use it because he didn't know how. Keeping it cool, the kid admits it sounds pathetic to just say that, but honestly, he never felt like he needed it anyway. Absolutely triggered by the answer, the veteran leans on his desk, trying to process the sheer audacity of what he just heard. Tired, he complains that the universe has been against him since the guest logged on, but decides to tough it out since they just hit 25,000 viewers. Swiping on his phone, the blonde pivots hard and announces the second segment is going to focus exactly on that ignored skill tree. With that, the creator pulls up a clip on the stream and asks chat if they've ever seen anything like this. The video shows the exact frame where two players clash swords with crazy force during a night duel. From the heavy impact, one of the warrior's blades literally shatters into pieces mid-fight. Right after the weapon breaks, a UI pop-up reveals that destroying 10 weapons by hitting their seam unlocks the weakness detection skill. Pointing up, Alpaca explains that the seam is a structural weak point that lets you snap an object in half, just like in fantasy anime. Looking at a menu full of heavy weapons, the MC realizes he only needs to find 8 more of these spots to unlock his skill. Holding up 2 fingers, the veteran frustratedly admits that so far, he's only managed to find 2 of these hidden seams in the entire game. He explains the first one was the rapier he broke by total RNG in the clip, and the second was leaked by an NPC. Looking confused, the streamer admits he has zero clue how the detection actually works in gameplay, since it's the only node he hasn't unlocked. Staring at the camera with a sharp look, he builds the hype, claiming his guest has a completely different take on the meta. Totally hyped, the blonde points at the kid and screams to the audience that he can figure out the RNG behind these seams. The claim sends chat into an uproar, accusing the streamer of baiting, forcing the veteran to wave his hands to calm the mob down. Getting his act together, Alpaca flashes a competitive smirk and pitches an official bet to see if the noob can crack the code live. On this platform, there's a virtual reward system where you passively farm gold coins just by lurking in streams. This currency lets you interact directly, like the guy who dumped his points begging the channel to play a horror game. But the real meta for the community is throwing this free currency into gamble pools based on live challenges. Hyped for the content, the host says he gave everyone enough time to lock in and opens the betting pool on the UI. Totally lost on the Twitch lingo, Sojin innocently asks what the safe bet, underdog, options mean. Patiently, the blonde explains the safe bet is likely to hit but pays out trash, while the underdog is a massive long shot that pays out a fortune. Checking the odds on screen, the kid quickly realizes the audience thinks it's basically impossible for him to find 4 or more seams. Looking right at the camera, he addresses the viewers, pointing out that the hardest option is paying out 100 times the bet. Flexing unbreakable confidence, our MC tells chat to trust him, getting a wave of laughing emotes from viewers who think he's capping. Unfazed by the doubters, he turns his head with a smirk and promises that anyone who risks it is going to cash out big time. With the bet locked, the system boots up the mission, fast, traveling the duo straight into the night map of the Murder Dawn. The dead silence of the city is broken by the sound of rapid footsteps as someone runs for their life through the stone alleys. Completely terrified, a guy sprints through the dark streets, sweating bullets and panting from exhaustion. Out of stamina, he leans against a brick wall, desperately trying to catch his breath. But the hunter catches up instantly, making the victim drop to his knees, begging for mercy with a shaky voice. Cornered and shaking with fear, the guy looks up, knowing he's about to catch a respawn screen. Spinning a glowing red sword, the hunter flashes a sadistic grin and promises to let him live if he tries to run one more time. Panicking, the victim scrambles to his feet to run, while the narrator drops the lore that the villain is Lewis Neville. The veteran explains that this Midnight Stalker is the son of a massive faction boss from the Northeast Zone. Hiding in the alley, Seojin recognizes the boss from the clip and decides the first logical step is to check him in combat. Before jumping in, the kid equips a basic sword he borrowed from his streaming partner and checks the mid-tier stats. Watching from the sidelines, Alpaca warns chat that just knowing the weak point doesn't guarantee you can actually break the weapon. Confident in his game knowledge, the blonde swears that recreating the clip is infinitely harder than just landing a perfect parry. But the veteran freezes mid-sentence when he spots a sudden blur of movement in the alley. In a flash, our MC dashes at the aggro enemy and blocks the strike, triggering an intense burst of energy. Thanks to the flawless parry, the villain's sword takes a massive hit and completely shatters in the middle of the dark street. Super chill, the Swordmaster rests his weapon on his shoulder as the system logs his first broken seam, leaving chat absolutely floored by the speed. Stepping out of stealth, his partner praises the timing, admitting the kid has some serious mechanics to break the weapon on the first try. But then the blonde reminds everyone that this quick flex still doesn't prove the noob actually figured out the RNG behind the mechanic. Surprised, the Swordmaster looks at his buddy and asks what kind of proof he's actually waiting for. With a cocky smirk, Seojin declares that the theory he cooked up about how the skill works is 100% accurate. Chat doesn't let the ego slide and accuses the noob of being a fraud, making the host beg the crowd to stop flaming him so hard. The argument is abruptly cut off by a guard yelling, alerting the zone that intruders have breached the area. Staying cool, our MC notes that seeing is believing and decides to prove his theory live. With laser focus, the kid locks his eyes specifically on finding the fragile structural point he needs to smash. He thinks back to the ancient myths of monks who hit peak enlightenment in their past lives just so they could see the invisible. Even though he never reached that mystic tier in his past life, the Swordmaster guarantees he can fake a similar buff in combat. Checking out the heavy guard of the new armored enemy, he realizes he just needs to understand what the dev intended for this weapon. Our MC literally closes his eyes mid-fight, making chat laugh, assuming he just went AFK and gave up. The next second, the guard swings his heavy halberd, but the noob blocks the hit effortlessly while holding his defensive stance. The raw kinetic energy ripples through the metal pole, popping bright cracks right at the base of the enemy's weapon. Unable to tank the pressure on its weakest pixel, the sharp end of the halberd completely snaps off, leaving the guard disarmed. With his main weapon trashed, the armored guard loses all his poise and falls flat on his back in the plaza. Watching the clip unfold up close, the streaming partner is totally paralyzed, trying to process just how cracked this kid is. Ignoring his buddy's shock, our MC pushes forward through the metal shards to finish the combo. The veteran tracks his friend's buttery, smooth movement under the moonlight, feeling a massive reality check hit his brain. Sweating and jaw dropped, the blonde finally says out loud that this noob is an absolute glitch in the Matrix. Dropping his professional vibe, Alpaca falls to his knees screaming in shock, while chat loses it trying to understand what just happened. Completely unhinged, he yells that the kid found the seam with his eyes closed and asks if his duo is actually a robot. Once the dust settles, the host runs up to Seojin in a panic, demanding to know how he pulled off that miracle. The Swordmaster turns his head looking innocent, but a user drops a dono calling them both frauds and accusing the stream of being scripted. Triggered by the toxic accusation, the streamer yells at chat, swearing on his life that nothing in the event was staged. Pointing at the chat box, he defends the kid, claiming even he thought the guy was capping at first. Finding his partner's rage hilarious, our MC jokes that he already told everyone to trust him and bet big on the W. But the kid's brain locks onto another major detail, realizing the safe bet crowd wasn't the only group that just got screwed. That tiny realization hits Alpaca like a truck, making the blonde swallow hard and scream in absolute panic. The UI shows that only 1% of the audience actually bet on the noob, meaning the channel is about to go bankrupt paying out the winners. Breaking the tension, our MC calmly asks if everyone currently typing in chat is part of the 1%. Watching the chaos in the comments, Alpaca starts to see the real five-head strategy behind the kid's trolling. The veteran realizes his buddy is baiting the viewers perfectly and figures out he's not just cracked at the game. Blown away by his crowd control, the streamer wonders if the noob is a natural, born content creator too. Stretching his arms in relief, Alpaca tells chat to take a breath, thrilled that he doesn't have to carry the stream on his back anymore. Pointing at his duo, the veteran demands to know how he pulled it off and begs him to drop the tutorial for the chat. Keeping his usual chill vibe, our MC starts his speech by claiming he's just your average guy in his 20s. Hearing that humble brag gives the veteran a literal aneurysm on the spot. Pissed, Alpaca pulls up the game UI, screaming that there is absolutely nothing average about him, leaving the kid totally confused. Ripping off his partner's mask, the streamer yells that calling himself average with that face is illegal and officially introduces Jin Seojin. While the Swordmaster is lost on the drama, his buddy swears to the audience that there's zero character customization on that face. Chat goes feral over the face reveal, with viewers joking that the devs need to nerf the noob's unfair IRL RNG. Amidst the hype, a 10,000 coin dono pops up, with a super sketchy message about something needing to be small. Reading the cursed comment, the host's brain stalls for a few seconds trying to process the viewer's sheer audacity. Killing the vibe, Alpaca glares at the screen and seriously warns that someone is about to catch a perma-ban. The user quickly backpedals, saying they meant his height, while the veteran asks chat if he should just drop the ban hammer. Staring at the screen with a terrifying look, Alpaca says he's gonna let this slide exactly one time. Chat dies laughing when they spot the channel manager in the background holding a knife to intimidate the troll. Clapping his hands hard to grab aggro, the host ends the meme segment and steers the stream back to the gameplay. Walking through the night map, Alpaca keeps begging for the strat, and the noob admits he doesn't actually see the seams. The streamer tilts his head, completely lost, and asks how he does it then. The kid looks down, shifting into a dead serious philosophical pose. Tapping his temple, Seojin flexes massive ego, claiming he just knows where the weak spots are because he's a genius. That arrogant answer leaves his partner looking like a clown, fighting the urge to throw hands with the cocky noob. The audience eats up the toxic banter, flooding chat with emotes laughing at the host's frustration over the guest ego. Too tired to argue, the veteran just deflates, feeling like he's getting clowned on his own channel. Desperate for content, Alpaca begs his friend to have mercy and drop some lore for the casuals in chat. Giving in, our MC explains he just tried to reverse engineer what the devs were thinking when they coded the fight. The streamer's eyes bug out, asking if he seriously downloaded the devs' exact intentions based on just 2 clips. Flashing back to the exact frame the swords violently clashed, the kid confirms his theory and decides to drop a live showcase. Explaining the tech while moving around, the swordmaster notes that normal parries are clearly designed to clear out trash mobs. Since breaking a basic mob's weapon doesn't give extra DPS and takes too much stamina, he figures this skill has to be for something better. Putting the pieces together, our MC logically concludes the seam mechanic exists exclusively to counter the broken bosses. The veteran finally gets that you can't cheese the OP leaders with just basic blocks, and totally agrees with his buddy's theory. Because of this discovery, Seojin casually announces he's going to hunt a ruler right now, leaving everyone absolutely shook. The host panics and begs him to grind more levels before trying something so reckless, terrified of losing the channel's entire bankroll. Staring at the UI with a sly grin, the noob checks out the new chat interaction widgets. Getting his partner's attention, the kid casually asks if they can open a fresh betting pool. Without blinking, he suggests dropping a prediction on whether he can break a boss's gear today, starting the timer on the dashboard. Oozing confidence, our MC looks at the camera and promises that everyone will eat good if they just keep betting on him. The scene hard cuts to an intense boss fight, where a massive impact kicks up a huge dust cloud in the stone ruins. Heavy footsteps echo through the wrecked arena, revealing the silhouette of a massive unit walking through the smoke. Furious that his son caught an L, faction leader Richard Neville swears revenge and promises to take the intruder's head. Blinded by rage, the boss charges in like a tank, ripping a devastating overhead smash with his colossal sword into the dirt. Using his cracked movement, our MC easily iframes the nuke attack and instantly preps to counter the boss's combo. Punishing the end lag, the noob dashes in and strikes the enemy's dark blade, triggering a yellow shockwave. The boss gets jump, scared by the intruder's ridiculous speed, as the kid is already behind him buffering the next move. While the boss spams attacks at ghosts, Alpaca watches from afar and worries that the kid still hasn't found the seam. Sweating the sketchy matchup, the veteran starts doubting the strat, wondering if the weak point is just blocked by bad RNG. Catching the bad vibes, Seojin shoots a sharp glare over his shoulder and sarcastically asks if they really think he hasn't spotted it yet. The partner gets a mini heart attack, realizing the swordmaster is casually reading chat while dodging a literal boss fight. In chat, the viewers call it a dead run, warning that the boss's weapon is coated with special armor, making the streamer panic. Parrying the combo, our MC processes the lore drop and figures the enemy's sword might not even have a standard seam. Focused on breaking the guard, he channels a glowing aura into his blade, ready to push the game's physics to the limit. With a locked-in stare, the kid announces he's going to brute, force the truth out of the code. Without taking a single step back, Seojin unleashes a flaming uppercut slash with every pixel of his strength. The perfect counter completely knocks the boss's swing off axis, sending massive sparks flying everywhere. Annoyed by the spam, Richard asks how many times the intruder plans to try the same useless cheese strat. Ignoring the trash talk, the noob just keeps spamming heavy attacks on the exact same pixel of the colossal sword. Losing his mind over the spam, the boss charges up his ultimate, winding up a wipe, mechanics swing to end the run. Watching the flawless parry string, the veteran pops off, knowing his duo just found the sweet spot. The stack damage finally procs, echoing a loud crack as glowing fracture spider web across the giant weapon. The kinetic blast from the shatter knocks the kid backward, but he sticks the landing with perfect poise. Instantly, a system UI pops up showing a hidden achievement. Landing 10 consecutive hits unlocks the new skill. Standing in the middle of the dust cloud, our MC holds his ground with a smug grin. Refusing to believe his own eyes, Alpaca absolutely loses it, demanding to know what the hell just happened. Unable to tank the raw DPS of the perfect parries, the boss's sword hits 0 durability and shatters into dust. The UI progress bar finally maxes out, officially confirming the weakness detection skill is unlocked. Watching the disarmed boss stagger, Seojin lowers his own blade, looking completely unbothered. Dripping with charisma, the noob admits he miscalculated a bit, revealing the real seam wasn't on the weapon, but on the boss's actual body. Reality, the massive VR pod slowly slides open in the gaming room. Pulling off his headset, our MC wipes the sweat from his eyes, glad the sweaty stream is finally over. The second he steps out, he gets jump, scared by the manager bowing at a 90-degree angle, praising the master's god, tier run. Being super polite, the kid thanks him for letting him borrow the rig, while the host insists he's the one who should be thanking him for the carry. Joking around, Seojin says even their luxury rig probably downloaded some new tech today, leaving the duo crying tears of pure admiration. Walking into the room, Taewoo gets jump scared by the weird bowing scene. He asks if his buddy is still hanging around, mentioning he took a day off work just to catch the collab live. Then, the veteran asks where the kid was headed, making Seojin realize he totally forgot about his plans. Meanwhile, Alpaca's chat is an absolute dumpster fire, with everyone spamming him to go fetch the noob back to the stream. Getting bullied by his own game, the blonde yells at chat to shut up and begs the crowd to stop back seat gaming. The chaos on the monitor, manager Suin flashes a super satisfied smirk. Hyped, the guy announces that the VIP guest is finally ready to make his real-life debut. Pointing dramatically at the door, he tells chat to drop some W's in the chat for the Grandmaster. Seojin walks into frame saying what's up to the crowd, while the screen gets nuked with comments praising his looks. The audience is absolutely stunned to see the noob looks just as flawless IRL as his avatar. Dripping with charisma, our MC introduces himself officially as a travel vlogger. Wasting zero time, the manager tweaks the webcam angle to perfectly frame the kid's face. Trolling the blonde, Soo-hen asks what he thinks, reminding chat he wasn't capping about the guy's visuals. Chat instantly agrees and starts flaming Alpaca, joking that he'd still be ugly even with filters. Triggered by the random roast, the veteran loses his cool and starts beefing with his own fans on stream. The audience calls a TKO on the blonde, who just drops a sarcastic "thanks guys," looking totally defeated. Slumping in his gaming chair, the streamer announces he's going AFK for a bit to set some things up. Chat jokes that he quit to go cook dinner, while Seojin reminds everyone they are actually getting food together after this. Suddenly, a massive dono hits the screen with a fangirl calling the kid babe. Awkward about the aggressive Riz, our MC thanks the tipper but innocently asks if they're actually a girl. Chat dies laughing at the trust issues, roasting his total lack of experience dealing with simps. Then, another fat dono pops up, leaving the noob shook at how much money people are throwing at him. The user begs him to showcase more of the new skill, making the kid lean back in his chair to think about it. In his head, the tech literally highlights glowing red lines on enemy gear. Reading the entire wireframe of an item, he knows the exact pixel to hit to completely shatter their guard. Snapping back to the stream, Seojin explains that trying to hit that on a boss is way too hard to explain verbally. Baiting the audience, he promises that if they really want the sauce, they have to tune into his solo stream tomorrow. Keeping the Q&A rolling, the manager claps his hands and reads off the next question from chat. Answering fast, the kid admits he has zero clue what a fragment is and claims his only training is just running around. Later that night, the sound of meat sizzling on the grill takes over during their well-earned victory dinner. Hyped, Taewoo points at himself, answering a chat question about how the two of them first met. Throwing an arm around his buddy, he says they've been bros since high school and now split rent at the apartment. Chat freaks out finding out they're roommates, while the sword master just flashes a chill, friendly smile. Instantly, viewers start digging up old, ultra-cringe clips of Taewoo from the internet. Entering full panic mode, the guy sweats bullets, demanding to know what the heck chat is talking about. Taking advantage of the chaos, a dono triggers an ancient video to auto-play on the screen for everyone to see. In the retro clip, Taewoo is sitting in his dark bedroom promising to drop a hilarious story time. He explains in the video that he lives with a super chill dude, but the guy occasionally does some absolute boomer stuff. The guy laughs, leaking that he caught Seojin washing his phone with actual soap and trying to cool down his VR rig with a desk fan. Watching the leak live, our MC is dying of embarrassment and grips his chopsticks with lethal force. Feeling his buddy's killing intent, Taewoo screams in terror, convinced this is going to be his last meal. Time flies and soon every single bowl on the table is completely wiped clean. Food coma hitting hard, the four bros chill in the living room, grateful for the massive W they caught today. Super humble, Alpac admits he actually downloaded a ton of new tech thanks to the noob's mechanics. Riding the chill vibes, the manager asks if the kid has ever thought about setting up a proper YouTube channel. Breaking down the meta, the host swears the absolute first step is locking down a cracked editor. He taps his fingers on the desk, trying to sound like a legit industry insider. Flashing a confident grin, the blonde offers to hook the kid up with someone reliable if he's actually down for it. Our MC stares at his buddy, deep in thought, wondering who this mystery editor could be. Later on, Seojin is chilling on the balcony, grabbing a cold one and just taking in the city lights. The dead silence of the night makes the kid dive deep into his own thoughts about what's next. He replays the dinner convo where the manager pushed him on whether starting a channel was really necessary. In his memory, Alpaca argued with pure hype that the noob's content could easily blow up and break the algorithm. Backing the playsuit, and doubled down that the ROI, a return on investment, for this kind of hustle is insane. But the veteran side, complaining that finding editors who actually understand gaming content is incredibly rare. Curious about their squad, the Swordmaster asked how the manager even ended up working for the blonde. The guy calmly explained he was just an average desk jockey until he tuned into one of Alpaca's random streams. He noticed the streamer had god-tier talent, but his YouTube was totally dead with 0 uploads. Spotting a gold mine, Sue had decided to gamble everything and slid into the kid's DMs. Finishing the lore, the veteran revealed that his manager literally quit his 9 to 5 just to hard focus the channel. The manager smiled genuinely, saying he made the leap because he was 100% sure they'd make it big. Flexing his business IQ, he claimed he knew the blonde was destined to break the internet eventually. Snapping back to the present on the balcony, our MC realizes that running a channel is mandatory if he wants to hit the big leagues. He knows top-tier highlight reels farm millions of views and build massive clout for the players. Deep down, the kid remembers his original game plan was to just quit streaming the second he bought his own rig. But he admits to himself that going live ended up being infinitely more fun than he ever expected. Slowly but surely, he got addicted to the laughs, engaging with chat, and just vibing with his community. Silence takes over the balcony again as the Swordmaster takes a hard look at his own feelings. Staring at the can in his hand, he wonders in a rare moment of vulnerability if he was just feeling lonely this whole time. Looking up at the night sky, the kid accepts the truth and mutters that maybe he really was. The night breeze rustles the branches of a cherry blossom tree nearby. He reflects that carrying the memories of an entire past life is a ridiculously heavy debuff on his soul. In his mind, the pain feels exactly like having a hometown you love to death but can never fast travel back to. Sighing to shake off the sad vibes, our MC decides the best play right now is to go touch grass and hit the gym. The next morning shines on the modern front of the gym, kicking off another day in the noob's grind. Things are heating up inside as everyone is locked in on their heavy workout routines. A sweaty sparring match is going down during the warm-up rounds. Sue dodges with sick head movement, making full use of his protective gear. Watching from the sidelines, the coach notices the kid is taking out his IRL stress by punching way harder than usual. Breaking everyone's focus, someone randomly yells out, "Master." Totally gassed, the kid asks how much longer he has to stay trapped on the treadmill. Giving him a quick message to chill him out, the coach reminds him they literally only started this routine 2 weeks ago. Trying to flex, the kid claims he's a pro, but instantly gets roasted that he's only a pro in VR. Tilted Dong Su complains he only got dragged here because his team told him to get some real world combat EXP. In his head, he's dreading the idea of being chained to that treadmill until next year's tournament. Throwing a massive temper tantrum in the middle of the gym, he begs to learn some actual striking combos. Giving in to the kid's whining, the older guy finally agrees to let him do some light sparring today. Hyped for the chance, the kid cockily asks if he gets to pick his own opponent. Jumping for joy, he figures it doesn't matter since literally anyone here would absolutely body him anyway. Trying to pick a fight with the whole room, the brat's attention gets stolen by a new guy walking in. Looking completely chill, Seal steps onto the main gym floor. From up in the ring, the red-faced kid checks out the new arrival, super curious. Absolutely mind-blown, Dong Su instantly recognizes the Swordmaster from the viral clip. He clearly remembers watching that unhinged live stream with his older gaming buddies. Even the gamer girl in their squad was totally speechless at the mechanics shown on screen. Staring at our MC from afar, the kid is in awe of the guy's intimidating aura. Being real with himself, he admits he never thought the streamer would look this badass in real life. As Seojin walks past, the kid tries to process what a gaming noob is doing in a sweaty fighting gym. The Swordmaster's sharp eyes scan the room with pure confidence, silently downloading the environment. Right then, a hilariously toxic idea pops into the hype kid's brain. Waving his arms like a maniac, Dong Su screams, demanding the MC come over to the ring. Confused by the sudden hype, the coach asks if he picked his sparring partner yet, and the kid nervously says no. Gripping the boy's shoulder hard, the older guy warns him to listen to this next piece of advice very carefully. Dropping a terrifying lecture, the man explains that sparring is strictly for leveling up technique, not for dropping your teammates. Shaking from the coach's sudden killing intent, the kid has no idea why his master just got so aggro. Scanning the MC's build, the kid thinks it's an easy W since the guy doesn't look like he has a lot of mass. The coach demands respect in the ring, but the boy just nods without actually listening to the warning. With his target locked, Dong Su points straight at the noob and asks for a 1v1. Completely floored by the suicide request, the instructor tries to confirm if he heard that right. In the background, the other students go into full panic mode and volunteer to take the beating instead of the MC. Playing dumb, the brat shamelessly asks if challenging a random guy to a fight is considered toxic. Sweating bullets, the coach states that pulling a stunt like that is insanely disrespectful and crosses the line. Noticing the commotion behind him, Seojin turns away from the lockers and stares the duo down. Keeping a super friendly smile, the kid casually mentions he heard someone wanted to catch hands. Accepting the duel on the spot, he gets curious about how this cocky brat even knows his gamertag. Revealing he's a loyal stream sniper, Dong, Su gets the green light to do whatever he wants in the ring. Wasting zero time, the two of them casually stroll into the center of the mat. Strapping on his heavy headgear, the challenger starts talking trash to keep his ego intact. He gives props to the noob's VR mechanics, admitting the guy definitely has talent. But the brat's eyes go dark as he arrogantly claims the MC isn't even in the same league as him. Taking the free trash talk like a champ, Seojin pretends to sympathize with the annoying rival. With a completely deadpan face, our MC nukes the kid's ego by asking who he actually is. The disrespect makes Dong Su absolutely lose his mind, screaming that he is globally known as the god of gaming. Shaking with pure rage, the boy tries to cope, telling himself this cocky guy is just a fresh install noob. He promising to show him the skill gap, he warns that the Swordmaster should feel blessed to even get this match. Warming up his muscles fast, the challenger starts bouncing on his toes, buffering his first attack. Way too confident, he decides to pull his punches so he doesn't accidentally hospitalize the fragile noob. But Seojin dodges the lightning-fast jab with ridiculous ease as it barely grazes past his face. Miles away from all this drama, two older guys are chilling near the gym sipping on juice boxes. The MC's dad mentions to his buddy that he probably should have taken it easier on his last sparring partner. Drinking his juice, the guy argues that the kid's build is deceptive since he looks like a squishy civilian. Watching the VOD of the brutal knockout on his phone, they praise the boy's natural talent and flawless footwork. Changing the subject under the clear sky, the friend asks how the stubborn kid's streaming career is going. The dad confirms everything is going great, explaining the family stopped nagging him once they saw it was a stable grind. Sighing heavily, the buddy points out that the content creation hustle is nowhere near as easy as it looks. The man remembers the brutal grind of farming viewers, picturing the kid suffering with a zero-viewer chat. Finding the boomer worry hilarious, he quickly realizes the overprotective dad has actually been researching the streaming meta. All hyped up, the older guy shows his phone, suggesting his son should play some ancient, super famous retro game. Dotting the Fi-head play, his buddy asks if that dead game even pulls any views on the internet anymore. Ignoring the roast, the dad claps back that any true hardcore gamer has to respect that masterpiece. Tired of the endless boomer lore, the friend bluntly asks how many subs the old man's channel actually managed to farm. Bursting with pride, the guy smiles and drops the bomb that he already hit 3,000 loyal fans watching his streams. The shock makes his buddy do a literal spit take, grossing out the MC's dad completely. Process his boomer friend's massive W. He stutters, trying to wrap his head around that sub count. His shout of disbelief rings out across the city while the scene hard cuts straight to a glowing PC monitor. The narrator drops the lore that the community went into total meltdown after last night's epic collab ended. On the forums, threads about the noob are breaking up vote records without catching any toxic hate. Chilling comfortably on his couch at home, Seojin realizes his clout genuinely exploded overnight. Ruining his much-needed AFK time, his phone vibrates as his streaming partner urgently DMs him a super sketchy link. Clicking the forum post, the kid gets totally confused, seeing a thread tearing apart his new tech with a storm of negative comments. Remembering his buddy's warning about internet fame pulling random aggro, Seojin glares at his phone, seriously tilted by the drama. Wasting zero time, the kid decides the optimal play is to just report the fake post. Sitting on the edge of his bed in the dark, the Swordmaster figures he needs to run a just chatting stream to clear his name. Already locked into his massive VR pod, the noob preps to dive back into the game server. The guy thinks it's wild to even guess how many viewers are going to show up today, considering he literally just started playing 3 days ago. As soon as the stream goes live with the clickbait title, "I'm turning myself in," the viewer count instantly spikes to 15,000 people. Miles away at the dev studio, a loud crash echoes as someone smashes their desk with pure rage. Absolutely livid, the lead dev demands to know how the weakness detection skill got unlocked already. Pacing around the office, the guy complains that mechanic was hard, coded to take at least 1 month to figure out. Hiding on the couch, the assistant mutters under his breath, reminding him he already called this bad vibe earlier. Triggered by the back talk, the boss gets in his face asking what he said, since the guy definitely didn't warn him. Trying to de-escalate, the assistant begs his boss to chill, claiming nobody could have predicted a player would crack the code so fast. That excuse leaves the exec totally lost, having zero clue what his employee means by cracking the code. Pointing at the laptop on the desk, the guy just tells his boss to check out the monitor. Looking at the screen suspiciously, the boss asks what he's looking at while the employee hits play on a VOD about the weapon seams. The clip shows the exact frame where the kid dodges a night attack, completely shatters the enemy's gear. In the video, our MC strikes a badass pose right after hitting the flawless structural break. Blown by the god-tier mechanics, the boss sweats bullets, asking how that's physically possible and if it even makes logical sense. The assistant crosses his arms like a boss and says they already checked the logs, confirming it's definitely not a game glitch. Asked about the next play, the guy pulls up a slide on the projector and gets ready to explain it like a total fanboy. All hyped up, he breaks down how the player downloaded the boss's pattern on the first try, speedrunning something that should have taken months of grinding. Overflowing with confidence, the employee states that from a dev's POV, the kid 100% wasn't hacking. The boss rubs his temples in defeat, admitting the noob is cracked, but instantly demands a patch to fix this mess. Playing dumb, the assistant asks what mess he's talking about, making the boss literally shake with rage. He screams that the company's entire roadmap is chalked if the fragment drops early, while the guy just doesn't care. The executive's eyes show pure despair when he mentions the dreaded fragment of order. This ultra-rare, glowing item was hard-coded into the game specifically as an Easter egg to tease the company's next expansion. He explains that the second a player collects all 4 pieces, a hidden chain quest automatically triggers. This secret mission was supposed to guide the player base straight to the mystery chaos fragments, hyping up the new DLC. And right at the peak of that discovery, the devs planned to drop the massive expansion trailer to break the internet. Pacing the room, the boss cries that this was a 5-head marketing strat meticulously calculated by him personally. But the mathematical perfection of that timeline just got completely nuked by one unexpected, brutal attack. Defeated, the man crashes onto the office couch, sick to his stomach that his master plan got ruined by a single gamer. Trying to find an out, he asks how long it takes to remake the trailer, only to find out it would take 1 month minimum. Staring at the ceiling, the exec asks if they can crunch the timeline if the whole team grinds overtime until they drop. The assistant thinks for a sec and guesses they might be able to push it out in 1 week of pure hellish crunch. Gripping his hands tight, the boss asks what the odds are that this player actually farms all the fragments in that short window. Flashing a huge smile and a glowing aura, the guy confidently guarantees that he's definitely going to pull it off. The employee promises a 100% success rate on the loot drop, flexing a hype that does absolutely nothing to help the company's panic. That brutally honest answer makes the boss go limp on the couch, shaking with pure hatred at his assistant's chill vibe. The dark glare, the exec grits his teeth and curses out the cheeky employee. The furious yell ordering the guy out of the office echoes, so loud it can be heard outside the massive corporate building. Now completely alone, the man takes a deep sigh, feeling the massive weight of stress crushing his shoulders. Staring at the glowing laptop on his desk, he watches the noob's combat clips, wondering how his skills are even real. Bothered by the insane talent, the boss clicks his mouse, still refusing to believe the kid caused all this chaos. Pausing the veal on the sweatiest moments, the exec finally takes the L and admits the player's movement is top tier. Hitting play again, he tracks every fast, surgical strike the Swordmaster throws on the monitor. The view counter blows past 100,000 while the boss analyzes the perfect dodges, pausing the clip constantly. With every replay, the noob's raw power and flawless mechanics impress the game's creator even more. Totally turning into a fanboy, the man decides to search Sojin's tag directly in the platform's search bar. The screen loads up brutal compilations of the kid deleting the game's monsters with scary ease and lethal combos. Watching closely, the exec covers his mouth in awe, quietly admitting that the noob's playstyle is sick. Hyped, he types fast, remembering that he literally designed that route, but never imagined it getting exposed like this. Time flies in the dead quiet office, with the desk clock ticking way past 3 in the morning. Stretching his arms to cure the stiffness, the boss wonders how long it's been since he felt this proud of his own game. He realizes that watching someone break the sandbox's team, built with so much sweat, is actually super rewarding. The guy flashes back to pulling all-nighters with the devs hard, focusing on giving the player base total freedom to explore. Fully converted into a simp, the game creator hits the follow button on the kid's official channel. Notifications on, the noob's profile hits an insane milestone of 1,700 loyal followers. Far from the corporate tiers, the clarification stream kicks off with our MC giving a chill wave to the audience. Checking the packed chat, the kid realizes the messages are flying by way too fast, and is glad he actually prepped for this. Instantly, the system highlights a loyal viewer rocking a rogue skin, granting him VIP mod powers over the chat. Another OG viewer running a fish avatar also gets the mod badge to help control the total chaos. Seeing them log in, the Swordmaster smiles and asks if his big carry squad is locked in and ready. Clapping his hands, he tells the audience that from now on, these channel veterans are going to be the official mods. The noob explains he hand-picked these guys because they've been backing him since his very first disaster of a stream. mentions he shot them DMs begging for mod help, and almost all of them accepted the invite without second guessing. The kid notices only one specific user left him on read, but quickly pivots and pulls up a virtual overlay on the screen. Pointing at the glowing UI, he tells chat to quickly skim the new channel rules that are going to govern the stream from now on. Chachin agree to the TOS. The protagonist's face drops, remembering why he actually went live today. His glare gets sharp as he brings up the fake accusations about how he supposedly cheated to find the weapon seams. Taking the L for the confusion, the kid apologizes for doing a garbage job explaining how his weird tech actually worked. Keeping it simple, he explains he literally just reads the weir and tier textures on the enemy gear to find the easiest pixel to snap. Deadpan, he admits he knew people would still call him a hacker even if he proved the strat live on stream. To shut down the drama permanently, the noob pulls up an email showing he literally reported his own account to the devs, leaving chat totally stunned. Thinking his lore drop on the new skill killed the beef, Seojin looks visibly relieved. Hyped that the vibes are good again, he decides to jump straight into the gameplay, but immediately catches a notification. The system flashes a massive bounty alert for 1 million points, thanking the player on behalf of the dev team. On the floating UI, the portrait of a massive guy radiating magic energy shows exactly who the target of this epic raid is. The new quest demands a pure stealth run to silently assassinate the leader of the magic tower. Thinking it over, our MC figures the payout is ridiculously high for what's basically his first official contract. He forces a fake cough to hide how shook he is by the random mega quest. While the loading screen spins, the chat goes feral, wondering if the actual game devs triggered that bounty. The audience starts spamming laughing emotes, thinking it's hilarious the kid actually believes this is going to be an easy stealth mission. The map finally loads in, showing a massive cyberpunk-style night city dominated by a giant tower dead in the center. This epic location is known as the core of arcane lore, and is 100% run by mages. Suddenly, the sharp sound of a blade slicing the air breaks the dead silence of the dark street. An NPC rogue sidekick spawns behind the noob crying in fear, claiming he feels an insane amount of killing intent. Confused by the NPC's cowardice, Seojin comments he thought his partner was supposed to be the actual assassin for this quest. Accepting that his teammate is literal dead weight, the kid decides he's just going to clear the aggro with a frontal assault. Strolling casually down the neon streets, he mentions he read up on some basic lore so the stream wouldn't be boring. But chat completely disagrees with his logic, roasting him that his only real strategy is just brute, forcing everything. Despite the memes, the Swordmaster hesitates for a split second, wondering if front-dooring the magic tower is an actual throw. Pushing the doubt aside, he marches confidently straight toward the massive double doors of the main entrance. The second he steps into the huge, glowing lobby, the kid notices the NPCs are just chilling, watching the locals walk up the grand staircase in peace. Seojin wonders if these guys are the famous mages of the map. The audience quickly backs seats, explaining the bottom floors are just a safe zone market for regular civilians. Getting the vibe of the zone, he keeps walking down the fancy corridor, keeping his eyes peeled for details. Chat points out how quiet the area is, confirming the noob is definitely going the right way. Ruining the safe zone piece, an armored guard body blocks the path, denying access to the next sector. The soldier grips his spear tight, while a UI hint suggests using the intimidate dialogue option to make him back off. Completely ignoring the stealth prompt, the kid launches a brutal red heavy attack straight at the guard. Jump scared, the guard fails the stat check and eats the raw impact of the heavy swing. The insane knockback eats the enemy violently backwards, completely breaking his guard meter. Capitalizing on the perfect opening, the noob locks his eyes on the target, ready to drop his finisher. But a mystery crowd control magic circle spawns on the floor, completely paralyzing the wounded guard's body. Our MC freezes on frame 1 as a creepy laugh echoes right behind his back. A dark warlock spawns in, charging up intense blue flames in his hands, taunting that the intruder is way too late. Without dropping a single frame, the enemy mage fires a lethal burst of magic directly at the kid. The Swordmaster snaps his head back, reacting to the massive nuke flying at his face at supersonic speed.